Mr. Trump is not a man of peace. He is a man. Mr. Trump is not a man of peace. He is a man of world destabilization. But Iran has shown us that when a people believes in itself, believes in its capabilities, when it is convinced it is a strong civilization, rooted in its own values, well, that people can resist anything. And Iran has just demonstrated that to us.
Before we proceed with the full speech, it is important to note that this is an address by the Prime Minister of Senegal, which has sent shockwaves across Africa. In his remarks, he delivers a strong defense of African sovereignty while directly confronting Western powers. To fully appreciate the context and significance of his statements, we will now listen to the complete speech.
Removing sitting presidents, simply removing individuals in order to extract them and then subjecting them to your own version of justice is not truly democracy, especially if it is to be properly understood in terms of international law. Which war has been won? None. No war has been won. The United States and the West have engaged in many wars in recent decades. They didn't win the Vietnam War. They didn't win the war in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya, in Syria. They didn't even win the war in Somalia, where they were forced to withdraw, pursued by armed gangs. Except for sowing chaos and disorder in their wake. In these countries, none of these wars have been won because none of the objectives have been met. These countries will not be cited as examples of democracy.
You're one sentence away from launching your website with Base 44. Since the beginning of the internet, there's never been such a fun fact.
Under the Western conception, of course. What objective was assigned for the war in Iran? It was to replace a regime that has not been done. The same regime, in its most radical and harshest version, will continue, and the United States is forced to talk and negotiate with this regime. Reducing Iran's ballistic capabilities, that has not been achieved. Forcing Iran to renounce all nuclear programs, both civil and military, is not an achieved objective. None of the objectives have been met. And yet, the world is plunged into a chaos that nothing justifies. Mr. Trump is not a man of peace, he is a man of world destabilization. And alongside all of that, should we also feel regret for the actions and behavior of the other Western faction, the eternal givers of lessons? From the start of the hostilities, all Western regimes made statements deploring the violation of international law and international order. But it stops right there. And to soften and justify themselves to their boss, they must nevertheless add that they rejoice that leader Khamenei was executed since he is a dangerous terrorist who oppresses his people, that they rejoice that Nicolas Maduro was exfiltrated because he was a dictator playing a balancing act that nothing justifies. It is not for them to judge and decide for other peoples. Let it be enough for them to do it for themselves, which seems to be increasingly complex. Make America Great Again simply refers to essentially the realization that the sole superpower we once were was in fact, in the process of losing its position in the face of the rising power of other blocs, and particularly China. The solution is not the one being used today by America and by President Trump, trying to reassert its absolute power over its sphere of influence, notably Western Europe, part of South America and the Gulf, trying to cut off supply lines to stifle a competitor at the risk of destabilizing the entire world is not the solution. And the United States themselves will not escape the extremely negative consequences. What are these consequences? Will we witness a rearmament of many Asian countries which, given what has happened, are realizing the limits of American protection? Japan, which hosts the largest American military base in the world, South Korea, since the Gulf countries were not sufficiently protected by the United States, or at least could not withstand the Iranian strikes. Will countries that have the capacity to rearm, including on the nuclear level, continue to entrust their security or part of their security to the United States of America in the face of China's rising power? This is a question that perhaps researchers will answer, or history in the making. Will we witness the end of the petrodollar, which is the system that was established in the aftermath of the Second World War, based on the exploitation of the massive oil and gas resources of the Gulf monarchies, but with extremely significant investments and a solidification of the dollar as the international currency of exchange? History will tell us very soon. What I mean by that is that Mr. Trump got exactly the opposite of what he was looking for by starting this war. What consequences or what lessons are there for us Africans? Iran has just shown us. I am not here to judge the Iranian regime for better or worse. But Iran has shown us that when a people believes in itself, believes in its capabilities, when it is convinced it is a strong civilization rooted in its own values, well, that people can resist anything. And Iran has just demonstrated that to us. This conference, titled Autonomy, Patriotism, and the Multipolar World, Africa in Search of Its Sovereignty, invites us to reflect together on how our sovereignties, they have become familiar, almost comfortable, and yet as soon as we try to take them seriously, they slip away. They resist, they compel. Exactly when we talk about African sovereignty, are we talking about a heritage or a construction site, an achievement or a lack? But even before answering this question, we must know what we call Africa. Africa, when we talk about Africa, the rest of the world talks about Africa as if it were a single entity, a country. Africa is 55 states.
Are you having trouble trying to keep up with your professor? You've got to try Otter. Here's how it works.
Neutral? Africa is not just a continent. It is not just a mosaic of states, of peoples, of languages, of cultures, nor even an infinite variation of shades in the skin color of its inhabitants. Africa is not just an essence, it is a trajectory, a shared experience made of grandeur, of rupture, and of dispossession. Ancient Egypt, Nubia, the emperor of Mali, whose wealth and influence left their mark on the Mediterranean world. Or Abu Bakr II, that Malian sovereign who, long before others, our languages, our indigenous knowledge, our arts and our living cultures, which must be valued as a lever for intellectual sovereignty. This reminder is not a detour through the past. It allows us to understand the rupture because between these experiences of power and our contemporary realities, a historical shift has occurred. The slave trade then did not only impose a political domination, it restructured territories, oriented economies outward, and permanently inscribed Africa, which sheds light on our current situation. African countries are independent today. They have their flag, their anthem, their constitution. They sign agreements, they vote, but do they always decide? This question is not provocative, it is necessary. As Kwame Nkrumah reminded us, in the 20th century, we have not yet fully transformed it in the 21st century. But what exactly are we talking about? Sovereignty. As far as we are concerned, a few moral centers that speak as if their own historical trajectory were the measure of all civilization. The world has too often confused. There is a need to clearly distinguish sovereignty from closure. In that, sovereignty consists of freely choosing one's norms, partners, and priorities without withdrawing from international dialogue. Outward looking, we export raw materials, we import processed products. Our currencies, for some, remain linked to architectures inherited from colonization. We, to claim military, monetary, or diplomatic sovereignty, must also claim the right to produce our own categories of analysis, our own intellectual priorities, our own readings of development in legal form without material substance. A word without power. Sovereignty thus becomes a legal form, without substance, transformed into a rhetoric of legitimation. Now, true patriotism is something else entirely. It is a, oh no, a legal form without material substance, a word without power. Through a state's ability to produce results, legal security, fiscal discipline, economic transformation, mastered international negotiation, institutional quality, it is also a matter of will. And this is where the patriotism we hold so dear comes in. Patriotism today is often misunderstood. Either it is reduced to an emotional posture, to slogans. I would like to recall here, earlier I spoke of the French Revolution. A revolution does not take place over a year or over a few months. It is after the overthrow of the old system, only then does the revolution start. Only then do the profiles emerge and the stakes become clear. Because the system in its national and international branches does not give in. It is after the revolution that each member of the revolution truly discovers themselves. And some discover for themselves that they were not ready for the revolution. Today, in our country, Senegal is in a context that everyone knows. Yesterday, I told the Council of Ministers that we were already in crisis. The hidden debt we inherited alone is enough to consider that we are in crisis. It is the aggravation of the crisis. In a country like this, many who chose revolution and patriotism are not ready for sacrifice. We must be ready for sacrifice to say no, because this revolution will not fail. And as Frantz Fanon foresaw in The Wretched of the Earth, when the state becomes a tool for accumulation rather than emancipation, patriotism is hollow. This challenges us, each and every one of us, but the patriots must be those of today. They must be even more so. I tend to say that no reality of power is set in stone. It is up to us to breathe into power the realities that we want. We do not have to endure the realities of power. We must therefore rehabilitate a demanding patriotism. A demanding patriotism, for there will be no sovereignty without a social base. There has never been sovereignty without a social base. There will be no sovereignty without what we might call a collective political morality, a political morality of the collective. When our greatest challenge is the transformation of structures. It's not about material achievements at any cost, right here and now. It is the transformation of our needs. Otherwise, we would have long since moved past the situations we are currently facing. And so, when elites substitute themselves for the people without transforming structures, that is why transparency, accountability, and the exemplary nature of elites must be at the heart of our sovereignty project. Without credible governance, no patriotism can endure. More just, more dignified, more educated, more credible, and more capable of contributing to the world. In other words, patriotism is not the verbal exaltation of the flag. It is the capacity of a state to protect its interests without lying to its people, without humiliating its neighbors. It is therefore the capacity to not humiliate its neighbors and without insulting the intelligence of the world. But this reflection cannot take place outside of the world. And that is the third axis of my intervention. As the speaker reminded us earlier, it is changing. We are witnessing today a profound transformation of the international order. The multilateralism that Africa calls for today, Mr. Boniface, is not a multilateralism that is decorative, where Africa is invited to applaud rules written elsewhere, but a multilateralism that corrects the asymmetries of an international architecture that has become insufficiently legitimate, the application of norms, the necessity of reforming global governance, notably in finance and security, and the obligation to move away from an order where all dependencies are recycled into new forms. That is to say, with those who respect our agenda and to no longer confuse partnership with guardianship. Mr. Boniface, as you reminded us,
my husband had a heart attack and survived, but the life insurance company didn't send flowers. They sent a check for
every country, every nation must have the freedom to choose its partners and to refuse the order imposed upon it. And in this multipolar world, Africa must prioritize South-South cooperation, as well diversify its partners and create strategic alliances that strengthen its autonomy rather than shifting its dependencies. New powers are emerging, redefining balances and recomposing alliances. What we call the multipolar world is currently becoming a reality. Should we rejoice in this? Should we be wary of it? Should we be afraid of it? The answer is simply both at the same time, because a multipolar world opens up new spaces. It allows for negotiating differently, for loosening certain constraints, but it guarantees nothing. It does not automatically produce sovereignty. Diversifying dependence, not overcoming it. I told you a very long time ago, to answer the lady's question, we were still in the opposition when I told you it wasn't about swapping one flag for another. That sovereignty implies being able to defend one's interests. As far as we are concerned, there is no question of swapping one flag for another, nor one sponsor for another, let alone one guardianship for another. History has taught us that international relations are not governed by morality, nor by feelings, but by interests. The question is not whether the world is becoming multipolar. The question is whether Africa will be able to be a player there and not just a playground. Certainly not for Africans and for Africa, otherwise we wouldn't have had so much poverty and so much unemployment on our continent. This is where the essential part is played out. It is financed, it is organized, and it is defended. Building sovereignty means, first of all, producing what we consume, processing what we extract. There is no sovereignty without a productive base. There is no sovereignty without a productive base. Yet Africa's main problem is the lack of a productive base. A cannibalized primary sector, a non-existent secondary sector, and an overblown tertiary sector essentially marked by the informal economy. We cannot achieve development, let alone sovereignty, under these conditions. And one of the non-negotiable prerequisites for sovereignist production is the proper appropriation. What lesson is there for Africa as well? I will come back to that. Mr. President of the National Assembly, Mr. Prime, Mr. Minister of Culture. Certainly he is tipped to be the next Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the government, honorable deputies, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, Mr. Mayor of Dakar, members of the scientific committee, our guest speaker, Pascal Boniface, and your teams, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me, first of all, to express my sincere thanks to the chairman of the organizing committee, Mr. Dame Mbodj. for the quality of the work accomplished. Organizing a conference of this scale around issues so fundamental to our continent requires rigor, commitment, and a sense of collective responsibility. I want to commend this effort that makes our meeting today possible. I would also like to express my full gratitude to Mr. Pascal Boniface, who does us the honor of leading this conference, to thank him for the depth of his analyses and the clarity of his positions on the transformations of the international system. He contributes to shedding light on contemporary debates. His presence here with us, here in Dakar, gives a special significance to our exchanges and enriches our reflection on the challenges of a multipolar world. But as a preliminary matter, I would like to offer a few observations. Mr. Boniface, observations that are, I admit, subjective on the book, on your brilliant book. Ousmane Sonko, among the 20 most influential personalities of the moment. My contribution will not be centered on all of the beautiful and positive things that are said in this book concerning us. I wanted to take a moment to tell you that these are, without a doubt, certainly the most beautiful words I have ever heard, the most touching, and to strip away the legitimacy of the revolutionary process that led to victory. No, Gatsa Gatsa is not a deviation at all. It is truly the expression of a people who refuse to bend. And the slogan, "The homeland or death," is not a threat. It is the echo of Pan-African struggles against enslavement. We refuse.
For the first time in modern history, college student
to hear it that way. The slogans I gave as an example, the slogans of the French Revolution from 1789 to 1799, or death, even if in the end the slogan that was the most emblematic was limited to liberty, equality, and fraternity. The vocabulary of violence, which some have pinned on us, is not based on any factual evidence. It is performative. It doesn't describe. It suggests and conveys the Pan-African heritage of legitimate and universal resistance, that of Kwame Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara, Lumumba, Mamadou Dia, of peoples facing injustice. We have been the most peaceful political actors, basing our political action on reflection and production until the cabal was orchestrated. So the slogan is reduced to a threat to disqualify the stance of popular resistance. From the title, quote unquote, "An ambivalent man until the end," not citing your opinions, your positions, your courageous and independent stances, would be akin to an attempt to devalue the coherence of PASTEF's political project. An attempt to fragment national unity. Senegal is one and indivisible. The expression populist lurch, and they want to impose a reading where academic freedom is absolute, but political sovereignty is illegitimate. If some refuse to recognize that African peoples have the right, we, Senegalese Africans, affirm with force that the people are the only legitimacy and that African peoples are standing up for sovereignty. It's when the Senegalese who mobilized are reduced to spectators who are waiting. The use of this term strips them of their active role in this struggle for sovereignty. There is no dynamic without a leader. The leader whom they nevertheless want to present as an influential personality. Beyond the great honor of being cited in this paper through an external, distant, peripheral gaze, everyone here surely ignores it. We have never had contact, Mr. Boniface and I. We are meeting.
In conclusion, during the recent press conference in Dakar, alongside French geopolitical analyst Pascal Boniface, Senegal's Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko delivered a compelling address on the theme "Autonomy, Heritage and the Mutual World, Africa in Conquest of its Sovereignty." Sonko critically examined whether global security has improved under recent US leadership, citing the repeated failures of Western military interventions in Vietnam,
But
Iraq,
everyone has a different
Afghanistan,
story to
Libya,
tell.
Syria, and Somalia,
Michelle
which
says
often
it's
generated greater instability than peace. He highlighted perceived inconsistencies in the application of international law, external attempts at regime change, and the risks posed by the Thucydides trap as the United States seeks to preserve its dominance amid the rise of powers such as China. Through this discourse, Prime Minister Sonko underscored Africa's determined pursuit of strategic autonomy and sovereign development on the global stage.
This is how easy it is to buy shares of properties on Railbricks. You can scroll down to a property.
All right, folks, once again, good afternoon. This is Frank. I am your host, right? This is the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series as per of WCC. Welcome you all, folks, on the Saturday edition of We Charge Colonialism. So, you're going to see me up here sometimes Saturday and sometimes Sunday. As we speak right now in Kimbad and Natasha are still out doing some other job, and that's why you don't see or hear most often as a group. But I still come up here, and, to do what we're supposed to do to keep moving. Now, to that topic, it says European Union or the Western nations or the Western human right, also terrorist, right? The European Union, human right, Western human right are terrorists. They are terrorist group that hate Africa and African. European human right, Western human right, they are terrorist group. European human right and Western human right are terrorist group that hates Africa and Africans' right to freedom or sovereignty. Any entity or group that hate to see Africa free, they are terrorists. Any entity or group that hate to see Africa sovereignty, they are terrorist group. Any nation for that matter, any continent for that matter, that does not want to see Africa taking its rightful place, that does not want to see the sovereignty, the freedom of Africa and African people, that nation is a terrorist nation. And that continent is a terrorist continent. That group is a terrorist group. Any nation, any continent, any group that does not want to see African people living rightfully and controlling what is for them above the sky, beneath the soil, that nation is a terrorist nation. That continent is a terrorist continent. That group is a terrorist group. Now, having said my premise or my thesis, the European Union or Western human right, the European Union and European human right, Western human right, they are terrorist group that does not want to see Africa and African people right, African people freedom, and African people sovereignty. Yes, I said it. They are terrorist group. Oh no, let me remind you. You see, this is WCC. When we come up here to speak or to talk, we talk or we speak based on the attitude, behavior, and the implementation of people believe what they stand for. Now, why will European Union or Western human rights group be angry if we call them a terrorist group? Why? Because the last time we checked, They refer to Nelson Mandela as a terrorist man. They said Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. Meanwhile, Nelson Mandela did not drop bomb on anyone. Nelson Mandela did not go to another European country and start slaughtering European children, women, and children, men. Nelson Mandela did not sponsor any terrorist group, but they call him terrorist. Why? Because Nelson Mandela was fighting for the freedom, the liberation, the right. Let's put it this way. The right. Nelson Mandela was fighting for the right of African people to live freely. Then who are the people? The people who refer to Nelson Mandela as terrorists, as enemies. They refer to Malcolm X as extremists. They even refer to Dr. King as terrorists. They refer to Kwame Nkrumah as terrorists. Then who gave these people the audacity? Who gave these people the audacity to go to the African continent today and still preach about human rights? Yesterday, they called Dr. King terrorist. When Dr. King was fighting for right of people, for the right of people, they said he was a terrorist. Yesterday, someone like Malcolm X was fighting for the right of people. They call him an extremist. He was not killing. He was not sponsoring anyone to go kill, or he was not talking about violence, but he was preaching freedom. He said he was a terrorist. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in jail. The same people that call him a terrorist, that the same people that are on the African continent today talking about human rights. The same people that jailed Nelson Mandela for 27 years because he fought for human rights. They jailed him because he fought for human rights. For 27 years, he was in prison. For 27 years, they poisoned him with food. 27 years, they gave him poison. But he still survived that poison. These are the people that are coming to preach about human rights today. You know, I don't blame these people. I blame some of the stupidest and dumpiest Africans who will go and ally with these people to talk about human rights. To go against people who are fighting the fight. Malcolm X fought yesterday. To go against people who are fighting the fight that Dr. King fought yesterday. To go against the people who are fighting the fight Nelson Mandela fought against yesterday. And we still have Africans, dumb Africans, who will go and sit on the same human right. They see human right, European human right, Western human right, this terrorist group that remove Kwame Nkrumah, this terrorist group that killed Gaddafi, this terrorist group that killed Gaddafi. We have Africans on our same human right. If they know what they call human right, why have they not gone and studied the situation of Libya since the death of Gaddafi? Look at the Libyan people. Why have they not gone to study the time Gaddafi, Libya was under Gaddafi, and see how life was versus the current situation of Libya that is under the American jurisdiction, that is under Washington, D.C. jurisdiction, the Libya to which Barack Obama is the president, the Libya to which Hillary Clinton is the governor, or Hillary Clinton is a secretary. Why can't the human rights go, the so-called terrorist group? Why can't the European Union go and investigate this and bring right and charge the people who killed Gaddafi and charge the people who destroyed Libya? Today, there are slavery in Libya. Today, the Libyans are suffering. Where are the so-called human rights group? These terrorist organizations that call themselves human rights. But they hate to see Africans, they hate to see black people coming together, recognizing the situation their circumstances and trying to solve problem caused by Europe, problem caused by America, this colonial nation. These are the people that are coming today to define to us what human right is. You understand what human right is? What have you now gone to DRC Congo to talk about the brutal killing of Patrice Lumumba? Where is that so-called human rights organization, that terrorist group? Look at Congo today. Millions of Congolese are still dying because of the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. Millions of Congolese have died. You have Western organization in DRC Congo looting the resources, locally Congolese life. Where is that human rights terrorist organization? Why are they not in DRC Congo to talk about human rights? Child molestation going on in DRC Congo. On the mind, child labor. Where is that so-called terrorist group that call themselves Human Rights Watch? Look at the situation in Sudan. When congressmen have come out time without numbers and said that Washington DC sponsor terrorists in Africa. Washington DC sponsor Boko Haram, Al Qaeda, ISIS. Where is that human rights group? So the people that are sponsoring the terrorists, Ibrahim Traoré is fighting. Where is that human rights group? Why are they not investigating the United States? Why are they not investigating USAID? But they are investigating the men to whom that is fighting the same people that they sponsor to kill Africans, to destroy Africans. Where is that terrorist group that call themselves Human Rights Watch? Where are you? When Africans are dying in numbers in poverty, where are you? Where were you when the French were in Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, extracting the uranium, supplying Europe with coal, while the Nigerian, while the Burkinabes, while the Malians were in darkness, perpetual darkness, no light, no current, no safe drinking water, nothing. Where were you, Human Rights Watch, or what? I can't even call the name right because they are terrorist group. Why didn't you come out to speak when the French control that region that is called the Sahel today? When they store the uranium, where were you every year when the French took about 5 billion in taxes every year from this Francophone nation? Where were you, Human Rights Watch, how they call it? Human Right? Because it baffled me to even mention the name that they are human right. So it is only human right? When African people stand against Europe or the West from exploiting them of their resources, then that's the time you come up to speak about human rights. Where were you when the Burkinabe gold reserve was set in France? While the Burkinabes could not see their gold. But today, the Burkinabe have their gold reserve in Burkina Faso. Then you come to speak about human rights. Who is the human right for? Are you preaching for human rights because of the French? Oh, today, the uranium in Niger is no longer powering Europe. Now you come and talk about human rights. So are you talking about human rights for the European because they are no longer exploiting the Malian or the Nigerian to get their uranium to power Europe? Now you come out to sponsor a few stupid as black to come out and say Burkina Faso is fighting against human rights whatsoever and thing. Where were you when the French soldiers were killing innocent Malian, innocent Burkinabe, Nigerian in that area when they were raping them? Numerous cases are there. Human Rights Watch. Where were you at that time? Oh, they was not committing atrocity, right? They were not. But because today, Burkina Faso have built a helicopter hospital for Burkinabes is against human rights. Ibrahim Traoré have built the first time since colonial time for Burkina Faso to get their own natural gold reserve. Now it's against human rights for Burkinabes to get their own gold reserve. Now it is against human rights for Niger to get her own Nigerian uranium reserve, a resources that is for them on their soil. Now it is against human rights. So it is against human rights when this nation kick out foreign how they call it military and say, you know what, we ourselves will take matter into our hand to fight the terrorists. Now it's against human rights. Human Rights Watch, where were you yesterday when Washington DC put sanction embargo on those people not to get armed from anywhere to fight the Boko Haram, the jihadi, the ISIS that you support, that you gave arm and ammunition to go kill innocent people, and then you ban the state military from getting weapon also to go and fight the Islamic group that you support, you sponsor. Where is that Human Rights Watch, that terrorist organization? Why didn't you talk? You see, the same narrative you put yesterday, you strangle Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe and you put sanction on him. That narrative is not going to work in this current time. The same narrative you used to kill Gaddafi, that narrative is not going to be used at this time. The same thing you did and remove Kwame Nkrumah, the thing you did and kill Lumumba, the thing you did and kill Thomas Sankara, the thing you did and kill Amilcar Cabral. The list can go on and on and on and on and on and on. That tactics will not work today. What we will say to you, this is the end of your time. And let me say this. You will not like, I'm talking about this colonial nation, I'm talking about this tourist nation, this tourist continent that does not want to see Africa rise, that does not want to see Africa's sovereignty, that does not want to see Africa's freedom. They are terrorists. And I'm saying this to them, this tourist group, this tourist nation, the better or the sooner for you to turn around and come to your senses and do the right thing, the better it will be for you. But if you continue thinking that you are so superior, and because you use that superiority in the past and it worked, and you think you are going to use that same mentality of you being superior, and then the other people or African are inferior, they are beneath you, that anything you say is going to work, this, that, we have passed those stage. Yes, we might get so few of our people who are still horse Negro, who are still slave, how they call it, or horse Negro or slave, or how they call it, horse slave. We might get few of our people, like General Leslie, okay, people like that. And the current video will come and show people like that. We might get few of our people who still believe that they want to be in, how they call it, with their slave, they still be eating crumbs. We're still going to have few people of that. Because since the existence of mankind, Black people, we have been having stupid people among us that always betray us. We know that. We're going to have them. But don't rely on that. I'm giving you something real. Don't rely on that. And you keep going and you think we did it in the past and it worked. And we did it, and on and on and on and on. And we're going to keep doing it. The truth is, your downfall is coming. This is your downfall. The sooner you realize it, I'm talking about those nations, those continents who does not want to see black people, black nation rise. For each time we try, you come. For each time we try, you come. I'm talking about those people. And if you fall in that category, then you are a terrorist. The better you realize it and turn around and make things right, or the sooner, the better will be good for you. If not, a hint to a wise is quite sufficient. Now, recently, I thought to bring that video, but I decided I'm not going to bring it. Sometime last month or so, in Europe, the European Parliament sat down in the European Parliament and said, Niger should release Bazoum because Bazoum was elected democratically. Bazoum was a democratic leader. If to say, if you are elected democratically, then that means you are bounding to stay there. No. The people that put you there, if the people say you are not working, they have the right to fire you, and they can fire you anyway without even giving you warning. They can fire you anyway without giving you warning. So if the people that put Bazoum there, okay, you say he was elected democratically, it's fine. But it is not bounding to say the people that gave you the job, if you are not performing, they should still keep you there. Now, let me ask this question to these so-called people. You have your company, and somebody can apply for a job, and you interview them and hire them because you fear the fate. They are good candidates for your company, and they will be well productive because you hire people not because of their resume. You hire people not because of the way they speak. You hire people because you believe they will be productive. You hire people because you believe they will have great impact on your organization. And, they will be productive. That's what you hire people for. Now, but if it turns out to be negative, that they are not productive, they are not producing, you are not making profit, do you keep them there or you fire them? Do you keep them or you fire them? Even if you hire them for, let's say I hire you for 6 years, that's the contract I gave you. But within that 6 years, if they are not productive, you fire them. For example, look at the soccer game, those coaches. If those coaches are not performing well, in fact, they sign a contract for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years. But if they are not performing well, what the CEO for the soccer team or whatsoever team, what do? Do they keep them? They fire them. But yet, you hire them for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. It was a contract they signed, but you fire them. So if you say you are Human Rights Watch, won't you be going for the view of the people? If you say you are fighting for democracy, won't you go for the view of the people, the will of the people, the thought of the people? But you are going for individual because that individual serves your purpose. Human Rights Watch, European Human Rights Watch, a terrorist organization. European Human Rights Watch, a terrorist organization operating in Africa. Their media are also terrorist media. Their media, they are VOA, they are France 24, you name them. Where's the other one? BBC, CNN, they are all terrorist organizations because of their agenda to push against Africans. And if your agenda is against Africans, absolutely you are terrorists, because yesterday you feared that Nelson Mandela's agenda was against your success, you call him terrorist. Yesterday, you fear that Dr. King's agenda was against your agenda, you call him terrorist. Yesterday, you fear that Malcolm X's agenda, fighting for right of people that look like him, you call him an extremist because it was against your agenda. So what wrong were we according BBC, CNN, ABC, VOA that are against African success a terrorist? Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. You see, one who killed this generation, let me tell you this, we believe in the philosopher, one who killed by the sword must be killed by the sword. We don't believe in turning your left cheeks or turning your right. We don't believe in that BS. We believe in one who led by the sword shall be led by the sword too. We believe in one who led order into captivity shall go into captivity as well. That's the kind of justice we believe in. That's the justice we believe in. You know what we believe in our justice? Let me tell you what we believe in our justice. We believe in our justice because yesterday, Europe and America told Africans that because African people were fighting for their freedom, the slave master need to get reparation. Oh yes. So that's what we believe in it. So if the slave master got reparation, why the slave did not get reparation after 400 years of captivities on plantation, back breaking, raping our African mothers, girls on slave plantation, breeding. Even their own menstruation period, you go and have sex with them. So that is what we believe in it. Yesterday, the slave master got reparation. You see, this is the audacity of Washington, D.C. This is the audacity of the United States to veto reparation. And then the United States told us the reason why they vetoed the reparation for Black people, African people getting reparation, the reason why the United States, Israel, and Argentina veto it. Look, they say, according to the United States, at the time of slavery, at the time of colonization, the time they divide Africa into cake, the time about 10 million Africans died on sea, even before reaching the so-called New World. 10, 15 million, 20 million African people died on sea and buried at sea. The United States government, the United States representative said, at the time of those era of captivity, at the time they were raping African women, at the time our people were on plantation, sugarcane plantation, cotton plantation, watermelon plantation, at the time they couldn't eat, they couldn't have no good sanitation at that time. They were being beaten, no rest. They would beat them, some up, some down. They would beat them. When they're eating a bear, bear that is not eating a bear by 6 a.m., 5 a.m., they'll come and waste water on them for them to wake up, to go on a plantation, to go and work without eating. No good healthcare, no good medication. The United States said at that time, it was not against human rights. At that time, it was not a law that you couldn't do it to another human being. Who says that? People that says that have no souls in them. People that says that have no souls in them. Absolutely no soul. Oh, at that time, it was not a law. At that time, it was not forbidding. But it was forbidding at that time for people to get freedom. America, do you understand yourself? At that time, it was not forbidding to do what you did. But it was forbidding for people to get their freedom. And if people getting their freedom, the people they're getting their freedom from have to get reparation. America. What were you thinking to even say the reason why you voted, you veto it is because It wasn't a law at that time to do what you did to black people, to do what you did to African people. At that time, it wasn't a law. Say it wasn't a law, but it was a law for black people not to get free. It was a law that if black man is getting free, the slave master have to get reparation. It was a law. Africans, you see why nobody in our interest? You see why you have to be careful with these so-called terrorist group called as a Human Rights Watch come on the African continent to preach about human rights? If they so believe in human rights, why are they not going to Venezuela? Why are they not talking about the Venezuela president Maduro that was kidnapped yesterday against his own will? Why are they not investigating that? Let's continue here. Folks, what I'm about to show you, what you're about to watch, I'm not going to show the whole thing because I have no interest in it. But for the purpose of discussion, to expose these people, for the purpose of discussions, right? I will show it. You see the lady on the screen there? She looked like a scientist experiment. The lady on the screen there. You see, just because they look like us, that doesn't mean they are of us. Just because they look like us, that doesn't mean they are of us. That doesn't mean they are part of us. These are the horse Negro. These are the horse slave. Malcolm X spoke about these people. She looked like a scientist experiment. You see, let me remind you folks, and I think we spoke on this before. It came a time, they see so-called people. They were putting the Fulani, and we spoke about it one time, and I told you people, the reason why they are using the Fulanis, right? In Africa, one of the largest group of people in Africa, right, are the Fulanis. You can find them anywhere. The Fulanis. You can find them on any of the African nations on the African continent. They are one of the largest group. And you see, we always expose the West. And I spoke on this before. I said, because they found out that these people are one of the largest group on the African continent, and they are all over. They are the one, the same way they sponsor ISIS, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, and all of those things, right? The same way they sponsor those people to destabilize nations. And you see, this is why, let me show you something. This is why Walter Rooney spoke about in this book, How Europe Honor Developed Africa. Walter Rooney said, the free state, the sovereign state, I'm just paraphrasing it. The free state or the sovereign state will be under constant threat from the West. The free state, all right, or nations that are fighting or that are independent, cutting away from colonial tie, will be under constant threat. I'm just paraphrasing it. That is what Walter Rooney said in this book. So it is good that we read these books then, so that when things are happening, we understand. Now, we spoke about it. We said the Fulanese, they are one of the largest group on the African continent. They are everywhere. And we spoke about it. We said the West are using the Fulanese to create tension on the African continent. Because if the Fulani in Nigeria feel that they are being attacked, just the Fulanese, right? the Fulanis are all around. Before you marry a man, you will see Fulani in Liberia with gun, with terrorists, because they will say they're fighting for whatsoever. And they did it. They did the same thing in Liberia. Before we know Fulani, people came with arms. They said they are coming to fight for their this, that, and stuff. So they did the same thing in Burkina Faso. They tried to use the Fulanis. And Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré was quick to put that under control. And then before we load, we saw that same Fulani issue happening in Nigeria. The same when they came out with this Christianity thing that, oh, Christians are dying, Christians are dead, Christians are dead. After they tried that, it did not work. They tried to use the Fulanis to say, oh, Fulanis, because, again, like I said, they are one of the largest group of people on the African continent. Especially in Nigeria, they're planted too. So they tried to use the Fulanis again. But just how on social media, on various platforms, we spoke against it, we exposed the truth. Before most Nigerians on their platform, they start speaking against it again. And that died down. So you see the lady in the video here, she is a Fulani, working alongside with this tolerance group called Human Rights Watch. And see where they took that data from and how they interpreted this whole stuff here. Okay? Listen to this. Listen to this. I'm not going to play the whole video.
In West Africa, there's a brutal conflict going on in West Africa that many people have never heard of.
Now, listen to this. She said, there is a brutal conflict going on in West Africa that many people have not heard of. You know where that West African nation is? Burkina Faso. Now, folks, let me just say this. For those of you who watch or who will watch later, right? Let's say this. Is anything happening in Burkina Faso that you and I are not aware of? So you see the propaganda in the first place. You see the propaganda. In these modern technologies, okay, where informations are just everywhere in things. What is about Burkina Faso that we don't know, we have never seen, or we don't like? What is about Burkina Faso? So you see, there is brutal war, there is brutal days going on in West Africa that many people does not know, and it's Burkina Faso. What is exactly going on? Burkina bees are dying, and we don't know. So you see the narrative. You see it. You see this idiot of an African woman. This slave Negro, this horse Negro, that is being used because of a couple of dollars against her own people. So see the narrative. There's a brutal XYZ going on in West Africa that people does not know about. You see that? You see that narrative? You see that headline? You see that statement alone? Which is false. Because 24/7 we are on Burkina Faso because we know the enemies trying to attack Burkina Faso. So because of that, 24/7 we don't sleep when it comes to Burkina Faso. We are on the internet searching when it comes to Burkina Faso. We are calling, we are communicating with people, even within Burkina Faso, when it comes to Burkina Faso. So where this lady getting her information from, that this is going on in West Africa that we don't know? I mean, look, let us be frank here. What is going on in West Africa that we don't know? In this modern time, what is going on that we don't know? Tell us, let her tell us, okay? We're listening to her.
In Burkina Faso, government forces have been fighting Islamist armed groups for more than a decade.
All right. In Burkina Faso, government forces have been fighting terrorists for more than a decade. Again, it's a lie. Government forces have not been fighting terrorists for more than a decade. It is French troops that have been controlling Burkina Faso. It is French troops that have been fighting the jihadi. The same people that sponsor the jihadi is the same people that have been fighting the jihadi. Another red flag, wrong narrative. Because that decade, she said, listen to this, it's English, right? I don't know English. I learned it and I apply it. But she said, government forces have been fighting the jihadi for decades, the terrorists for decades. And after Ibrahim Traoré was not there. So you see how they try to beat around the bush, right? To pin a story on Ibrahim Traoré. But yet they stay with their own narrative, with their own story that they are breaking out. We are trying to bisect it and let them to know that you guys are terrorists. Targeting a man who is fighting for his people, because the issue of Burkina Faso, it was in Burkina Faso before Ibrahim Traoré came and met it. The issue of Mali was there. The issue of Niger was there before these three kings came into office. So according to her, the Burkinabe army have been fighting the jihadi for decades, which is lie. The French troop that been there, the American troop that been there, African that been there, they feel the Burkinabes, they feel the Malian, they feel the Nigerian, they feel West Africa, they feel Africans because they've been there for decades and they cannot fight the terrorists. America that produce weapons, France that produce weapons, Great Britain or England that produce weapons, but they could not defeat the terrorists that do not produce weapons. You know why? Because according to U.S. congressmen or officials, the United States, along with the USAID, sponsor these terrorists. CIA sponsor these terrorists, according to them. So why would they defeat the ISIL? So again, Human Rights Watch, go and do your research. You are messing with the wrong generation. Because we are not going to take the same BS again from you people. Because from decades, according to you, Ibrahim Traoré was not in power. It was the French military in power. It was the American African military in power. The British military in power. The Canadian military, even the Canadian military was also in our region. Not only that, the German military also in our region. They could not fight Boko Haram. So for decades, these foreign military have filled the African continent. Human Rights Watch, a tolerance group, you are a biased propagandist. It's not going to work. If you think you will take down any African leader that is doing the right thing for 8 people, and then you leave dictator in power, Human Rights Watch, why have you not gone to Cameroon? Paul Biya been in power for almost 50 years. Why have you not gone there to talk about human rights, to talk about democracy? What have you now gone to Togo to talk about human rights, to talk about democracy? Because this family been in power for going to 60 years now. Father ruled, father died, son came, and son is dead. Going to 60 years. Where is that so-called Human Rights Watch, a tolerance group? Why are you guys not in those countries? But you are in a country that said we do not want the presence of Europe, of the West. We do not want the presence of Western media, because the last time we checked, the so-called United Nations went and gave report, damaging report against the government of Burkina Faso. Now, when they asked the United Nations to bring proof, the United Nations couldn't bring proof. And you expect these people to kick the United Nations? They had no, they got to kick them out because they went and gave a report with no factual information, with no information that you can fact check, just to make the government look bad, to remove the government so that they can bring back the presence of the French people or foreign organizations to continue to loot the uranium, the gold, the diamond, and our resources to empower the economy while the African people continue to die in perpetual poverty. Is that why you call human rights? You are a terrorist group. That is not going to work again no more. But let's go back again. She still wants to tell us some things so that we can tell her you are a damn terrorist. Okay, speak. Tell us again. Why again do you want to tell us? Speak, lady.
All sides have made attacks on civilians a key part of their strategies, killing thousands. More than 2 million people have been displaced by the fight.
Now, you see what I try to do there, right? They cannot just talk about Burkina Faso, right? Because they try to bring the narrative, right? So that people will not try to understand that they are running propaganda. So she went as far as saying, both sides are killing people. You see that, right? Because if you just go and say the Burkina Faso army is killing people, right? We will ask a question, but if the Burkina Faso armies are killing people, how about the terrorists? Because they know that, we know that the terrorists are killing, go to villages, loot, rape, and kill people. They know that, right? They know that. Why had the human rights group not go to Nigeria? What had the human rights group not go to Nigeria to talk about the slaughter, the killing that is going there? No, they will not go there because the influence or the presence of the American foreign policy, European foreign policy is there. Because as we speak right now, Tinubu, another puppet, another slave, or horse Negro, have given the authority of the United States to have army. All right? Last week or last 2 weeks, about 200 troops went to Nigeria. They are there, sitting at the edge, the border of Burkina Faso. So the human rights will not go there because they are also working in the interest of their slave master. So they will not go to Nigeria to go and speak about what human rights, about what, about how the Nigerian government is not protecting people, is not doing this. They will not do it because the presence of the West is there. But where the presence of the West is not there or are not there, those places will be under constant threat. And that is what I really talk about. The liberator zone will be under constant threat. Folks, read books that are written by your people. And you will understand when things are happening. You see? So she tried to put in, right, both. Okay, but you know what? Both are killing people. But look at her statistics that she brought out. Both are killing people. So right now, they are telling us the jihadi, the terrorists, have at least much sympathy on the people. You see how stupid and dumb this Human Rights Watch organization is? They are very stupid. They are very dumb. They are very naive, thinking that the way they are stupid and naive, that's how everybody of this generation are stupid and naive. So in what they are trying to say here is, in the next statement that they are coming to give, what they're trying to say is, yes, although the terrorists are harassing citizens, although the terrorists are killing citizens, but the terrorists have at least compassion on the citizens. They are not killing citizens too much according as the Burkina Faso soldiers are killing people. That is what they are saying in this video. The terrorists have some compassion, but the Burkina Faso army, they don't have compassion. They are killing people left, right. But the terrorists, they have some human feelings. And then you see what they try to do here. Let me tell you, people. You see, even in the West, in the Western world, there is something called neighborhood watch, right? Neighborhood watch. And neighborhood watch come in place if the community feel that, they are not safe, or there are a certain group of people, who are harassing, people, raping or kidnapping or burglary and all of those things, like you name it, right? You have neighborhood watch team, okay, who are there for the eyes of the police, right, to give information, who are there for the eyes of the army, or who are there for the eyes, for protection, right? It is the same thing that Ibrahim Traoré instilled in Burkina Faso, that listen, we all in this together. We all have to fight in this together, all right? And then the same thing you call neighborhood watch. That's the same thing that in Burkina Faso, there's a name for it. I think they call it volunteer or something or so, right? Watch and things. So those people, They live in a community the same way the neighborhood watch live in a community. They are community, they are civilian, right? It's the same way in Burkina Faso, all right? They call them volunteer watch or something, all right? But they gave them some training. So these people to live in a community, to protect the community, to protect people, to protect their brothers and sisters, their wives, their children as well, okay? Because DJ Heidi can come at any time. So these people that Ibrahim Traoré brought in, they gave them some kind of training on how to even use firearm and those things. Because the jihadi have more sophisticated weapons that are given to them by the West, that are sponsored to them by the West, according to U.S. Congress people, right? According to their lawmaker, them, according to their organization, they sponsor these people, right? So Ibrahim Traoré trained these people. Now, in this video, right? And then these people, right, some of them don't have uniform, like the neighborhood watch dog. So it's just like the neighborhood watch. They don't have uniform. They are common civilian, right? So some of these people, right, in Burkina Faso, what this lady tried to do, this lady went and took a jihadi picture, terrorist picture, and then referred to those people as they are the neighborhood watch that are killing people. The neighborhood watch that Ibrahim Traoré put in, they are the one killing people. Do you see the narrative? Watch it.
Even though I enjoy my two colors,
so what I did here, right? You see the guy that is talking there, he's a Fulani. He's a Fulani. Because, like we said, they see Westerners try to use the Fulanis to create chaos on the African continent. But again, African on various platform came again and debunking, and then in fact start telling some of the Fulanis, you guys got to stop this. And before it stopped, so these are the same Fulanis. They group together here and then they interviewing them. And then the lady in the video, she's also a Fulanese. The lady in the video, she's also a Fulanese. So you see what they're doing. The same thing they did in Uganda. Put the Houthis and Tutsis together. They did the same thing in Liberia. Put tribes together and they fought. That's the same thing they do on the African continent. It's the same playbook, here in, here out. We have to be very careful when these things are happening. So in this video, these are all Fulanese. As you can see on the screen right here, right? So even the narrator, right, the guy who they interviewing there, he's not saying, right, the Burkina soldiers are coming in. He's just speaking that they come, they kill, they come, they loot, they come, they rape, they come, they do this, they kill, and then they leave and things. But then the narrator now, right, use it and say, okay, it is the Burkina soldier, the people Ibrahim Traoré brought in as neighborhood watch. And then she will show the tourists and then say, these are the neighborhood watch in there. Meanwhile, the tourists, because the neighborhood watch, like I said, they don't have uniform. They are civilian, but they are trained in a way that they can use firearm to defend when these people who are heavily funded by the West come in a village to fight. They have to fight, and then before real army come in to help them. So you see right here, right? So he just talking here. They come in, they do this, but he never named who are they. The propaganda.
So why haven't many people heard about this crisis? Burkina Faso's military government has banned or silenced local and international media.
Now, you see right there? Now, at the end, after they have gone all around to put their things together, right? Now they come to the main point. Burkina Faso have banned local and international media and so forth and so forth and so forth and so forth. Meanwhile, we already know, like I said, there is nothing happening in Burkina Faso or even on the African continent that we do not know. We know it. We might be there, we might be out, but we know what is taking place. We know who is against Africa and we know who loves Africa. We know who is against Africans' empowerment, who is against African sovereignty, and we know who is for African sovereignty. Now, at the end of the day, she came back and said, Burkina Faso have banned international media and local media. What is wrong with that? If Burkina Faso ban international media and local media, what is wrong with that? Because the last time we checked, France 24 have never gave any good report. How will France 24 give good report about Burkina Faso when their army have been ran out? How will France 24 give good report about Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso when they are no longer getting gold and uranium? When they are no longer getting the 500 billion every year? Why will France 24 talk good about those nations? France 24 will never talk good about those nations when France is no longer exploiting those nations, when France is sleeping on a darkness, no light, no current, no electricity, when coal is flocking their bone 24/7, they are shivering, they are wavering because they are not getting light, they are not getting current. When France is in darkness, why will France 24 say anything good about Burkina Faso? Because at this point, what the Sahel nations are doing, it is against France. To them, it is against them. So France 24 will never say anything positive about those nations. They will always say something negative that people in our nation, even outside our nation, will go against them if they are not aware of what is happening. We know that. So we don't expect France 24 to say anything good about Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Now, if France 24 is not saying anything good but running propaganda to make the government look ugly and lying, why should Burkina Faso keep them? Why should Mali keep them? Why should Niger keep them? If BBC is lying, propaganda, fake and lying, why should they keep BBC? It's CNN because as far as we know, they have never said anything good about Africa because the last time we checked, all they said, all their news media is Africans people, they are suffering. Look at children, fly all in their mouth. You know, their mouth sting. Flies are running all around their mouth and thing. Poverty. You know, those are the 10 BBC show. Those are the 10 France 24 show. Those are the 10 CNN show. So why should we keep them? But they don't talk about how Europe and America go and impose their will on Africans to remove African leaders. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about how European organizations are exploiting Africa. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about how France takes 500 billion every year from African nations. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about how this African nation reserve bank is in France. And France making billions of dollars. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about how these African reserve currency or money are in France, right? And then France take it and loan it back to them as loan. They don't talk about those things. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about how Niger uranium is empowering Europe, giving them light. While Niger, no light, the perpetual darkness. France 24 don't talk about that. BBC don't talk about that. CNN don't talk about that. All they talk about, Africa is corrupt, African leaders are corrupt, but at the same time, they corrupt African leaders. But as for that, I don't blame them when they say African leaders are corrupt because we have these stupid and dumpiest and crazier and greedy African leaders because they see Western leader will come to them, bribe them with little money, and then they take this money and then come by, take their children, wife, and then bring them to the Western world, go to good schools, and then put the rest of the money in Western banks, and then these international organizations come and loot the resources and then empower the economy. So when they come back and say African leaders are corrupt, yes, for that, we don't blame them because we have these slave horse Negro who are African leaders on the African continent. So yes, we don't expect BBC. So if BBC, CNN, ABC, France 24 say lie, why should they keep them? Because the last time we checked, even the United Nations of all United Nations, they came out with fake news. And when the government asked them to prove it, to get the sword, they can't give it. Do you expect that UN troop to be there or the United Nations to be there? No. So Ibrahim Traoré kicked them out. So we understand that, lady, we will take this from them because you are irrelevant. You look like one scientist experiment. Now, the next thing we're going to look at, right? We're going to look at why Burkina Faso banned these international media. This is WCC. We're not playing game here. We will play what they say, everything. Okay? We're not playing game here. Africa will not be the same. Africa will not be the same. You did it yesterday. It's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen. That's going to be your downfall. Now, why Burkina Faso ban these international organizations, these tourist group? Why Burkina Faso ban them? Let's see here. You know, this thing was in sequence, right? The European Parliament sat down in Parliament because up to then, right? Because they came out this video, and up to then, this video was going to work. Then they went and sat down in the European Parliament and talked all kind of nasty stuff about human rights, and to say they understand what human rights is. Because let me say this: if anyone is talking about human rights, it should not come from the United States. If anyone is talking about human rights, it should not come from Europe. It should not come from any Western nation. If anyone want to talk about human rights, it shouldn't come from Europe and America. No human rights. It shouldn't come from them. No, because they do not understand what human right is. Because if they do, they could have worked with Nkrumah. They could have worked with Thomas Sankara. They could have worked with Patrick Lumumba. They could have worked with Dr. King. They could have worked with Kwame, or how they call it, or Malcolm X. They could have worked with Nelson Mandela. They could have worked with Amilcar Cabral. They could have worked with all these great leaders. But they don't. Instead, they work with actual dictators on the African continent. So who are these people to come to talk about human rights? They have no audacity to talk about human rights, to preach human rights to us. The truth is, if anyone is to talk about human rights, it's the black man. Because you know what? The human right the black men fought for in Europe, the entire war are benefiting from it. It was not the white men that fought for human rights in the US. It was the black men that fought for human rights in the US. And that human right that we are enjoying today in the US, all people, it was fought by the black men. That human right that people are enjoying in Europe today, it was fought by the black men. They never fought for human right. All the human right thing in place, it was fought by black people. Their own human right that they put in place, the United Nations, 1945, after World War II. That's the kind of human right, and we see how that United Nations play, because that human right that they put in place, that human right veto everything that's supposed to happen for black people interest. That human right, they veto it. So who are these people to talk about human rights when they veto everything that's supposed to protect human rights? They have no audacity. Because the last time we checked, they have never fought for human rights. Because the last time we checked, they supported the bombing of Palestine. They call it Greater Asia Project. And then after that, they said, after Palestine have fallen, Gaza have fallen, Africa will be next. The Greater Asia Project. The last time we checked, they dropped bomb all over. The last time we checked recently in Iran, almost 200 children were bombed by US in schools. Israel bombing places left and right, but they say Israel have the right to protect itself. But other nation does not have the right to protect. Burkina Faso does not have the right to protect its resources, its people. Burkina Faso does not have the right to kick France out, to kick US out, to kick Canada out, to kick or Germany out, to kick these foreign bases out. They are there, they came for terrorists, but they sponsor the terrorists. Burkina Faso, Africa does not have the right. Who are these people to talk about human rights? They have no audacity. They are not fit to tell African people about human rights. Because they themselves do not understand what human rights is. You look at Nelson Mandela and call him terrorist. That you don't want to talk about human rights. You look at Dr. King and call him terrorist. You want to preach about human rights. You look at Malcolm X and call him an extremist. You want to preach about human rights. You look at Kwame Nkrumah and call him a terrorist. You want to speak about human rights. You look at Gaddafi. You destroy Gaddafi in Libya. Look at Libya today. You want to talk about human rights? You sat down in your country, you say in 5 years, we have to make sure Sudan go. Look at Sudan today. You want to talk about human rights when you talk about you will destroy Sudan and today is destroyed. You sat down and say Libya must be destroyed and today Libya is destroyed. You want to talk about human rights. Go and clean your eye first. Go, because there are dirt in your eye. Go and clean it before you talk about other person there in their eye that they need to clean, because you are not a sin.
Was just being dropped on the social media about Burkina Faso, and this is a disinformation bombshell because it's shocking. Everything about this information is shocking. But I want to take this opportunity to bring you up to speed with this massive disinformation campaign that have just been launched against Burkina Faso. Western media correspondent traveled to Burkina Faso about a week ago to have Captain Ibrahim Traoré's opinion about what is going on in Burkina Faso and the pro-popular People's Revolution view in Burkina Faso, which most pro-Western media see as a pro-communist strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to watch this video. And I want you to observe the level of disinformation right from the very start of the video, what they said about Burkina Faso. And the fact that the full entourage of the Sky News in Burkina Faso had one black journalist who was the lead correspondent, and the rest were all white. It's about a similar pattern that has been used to destroy Africa for a long time. But this time around, it probably will not work.
So from the first video we watched, right, this is Burkina Faso. The lady said there are massacres going on in part of West Africa, in Burkina Faso, that no one is talking about. But see the reaction of the people, because when they did that video, right, and then now they send a black woman again to go and interview people. But you see, look, it will never work this time. So she did an interview and see the reaction of the people. This is a nation, they say, heavy killing by government official, this, that is going on. But here are the people on the street protecting Ibrahim Traoré. Here, listen to what the people say. These terrorist group that call themselves West Human Rights Watch. They are terrorist organization.
And I want you to look at the narrative that was created, even though the testimonials of the local seems a lot different from the narrative they're trying to make you, the public opinion, believe. Ladies and gentlemen, Here's the video.
Do you own your own home in Pennsylvania and are still paying for electricity? You could be missing out on free government assistance to go solar.
This is a rare glimpse into an African capital city that few outsiders now get to see. In a country recalibrating its place in the world.
We're in Ouagadougou, the bustling capital city of Burkina Faso, a country famously known for arts, culture, and African revolutionary thought. But in recent years, it's become one of the deadliest places in the world for terror.
So you see the narrative. The same way the first lady started, that heavy massacre is going on by government forces. Now you hear her, in recent years, have become one of the deadliest. You see that? In recent years, it have become one of the deadliest. Watch.
The people here are hoping that under the leadership of their charismatic young president, that they can find sovereignty, security, and freedom from their former colonizer, France.
Burkina Faso has grappled with French control in the decades since independence. The country is now denouncing France and leaning into alternative allies like Russia, led by their young president. French forces and diplomats have been expelled from Burkina Faso since the 2022 coup that brought President Ibrahim Traoré into power. This rally is organized.
So this is the country that they tried to make Ibrahim Traoré look ugly. But they went to this country and they met the resistance of the people against foreign interference and showing love to their leader because of the changes they have seen their leader, is making. So she was surprised to go and see. Because having listened to the first video that there are massacres going on in West Africa that nobody know about, right? But she went there now to go see. The story is different.
Organized by Citizen Watch, a vigilante group shielding their president from counter-coups and assassination attempts. After God, it's Ibrahim Traoré, she says.
Does everyone here feel the same way?
So, the woman here, as you see on the screen there, is the spokesperson so far for the group here. The lady is telling her, because what they're trying to do here is kind of sad. The lady is telling her the importance of Ibrahim Traoré. Imagine somebody telling you after God, next to God is Ibrahim Traoré. That's a statement the woman made here. Next to God is Ibrahim Traoré. God first, Ibrahim Traoré second on this universe. Now Western narrative, now Western leader, because Western leaders are nothing but supporters of terrorists. That's what this lady is saying. Western leaders are nothing but supporters of terrorists. Western organizations are nothing but supporters of terrorists. That's what this lady is saying. And the lady is saying, in Burkina Faso, after God, next to God is Ibrahim Traoré. Now, she's asking the lady, the way you think, the way you view it, is that how everybody here view it? No, if you think the way she think, that's not how everybody here think, then take your mark and carry it to them. Stupid.
D'accord avec ce qu'elle a dit. Oui. La patrie ou la mort.
So she had an interpreter there. So the interpreter asked the rest of the people. The lady is saying, the view of this lady that after God is Ibrahim Traoré, next to God is Ibrahim Traoré. Ibrahim Traoré is sitting at the right hand of God. Do you all believe that statement? Everybody say, yay! Put a flag on, yeah, and here Ibrahim Traoré, yay! Yes, we all agree. This is the Burkina Faso that they say heavy massacre is going on that nobody know in West Africa. You see, they try to use the Fulani. They try to use the Fulanese to destabilize this region. But let me say this to the West. The truth is, this is your end time. The prophecies is here. This is your end time. What I can say to you is, the sooner you realize it and turn around and stop this attitude of yours, it will be better for you.
No elections in Burkina. President for life. I have the chance to meet the man himself and interview him under extremely controlled conditions.
Now, again, right? She have seen the reaction of the people. The people say, in fact, there is no election. These are the people. The people are saying, in fact, no more election in Burkina Faso. Like a so-called democracy, you can take it to your West. We don't need it. Democracy is deadly. It's devilish. It's demon. It's chaos. It's bloodshed. We don't need it. Go with a no more election in Burkina Faso. Now she have getting the reaction of the people. The same nation, they say, human beings are dying. Human beings are, you see? Now she have getting a reaction. And she says she's going to meet the president. And look at the language she used. On extreme or high or something condition. You don't meet Ibrahim Traoré on no extreme condition. Ibrahim Traoré is not on a threat. Ibrahim Traoré is not a threat to any nation. And he keeps saying it. Ibrahim Traoré keeps saying it. I am not a threat to any nation. I do not hate any nation. However, if any nation think that they will come and impose their will on us, it will not happen. We are not going to take it. If any nation think we are lesser of a human being, if any nation think we are 3/5 of a lesser human being, it's not going to happen. We are not against any. In fact, Ibrahim Traoré said, first is welcome to come and work with us. But provided they go by what we want. Now they're coming to dictate to us. So you see the language he used on extreme or high condition, have to say, you see these people? These are the horse Negro.
We're on our way to interview President Ibrahim Traoré for an exclusive roundtable that's been completely engineered by the Presidential Comms Department. Their cameras, their lights, their footage. And in the meantime, I'm cramming my French because we've been told we won't be allowed a translator as hard as we've tried to get one.
Je pense que vous êtes dans le pays qui prône aujourd'hui la souveraineté.
You are the country that today champions sovereignty, national sovereignty, and total independence. Because as you are no doubt aware, our country was colonized, like many African countries. But today, we are making our voices heard. And so, the struggle for sovereignty and independence is therefore the driving force behind our fight.
This is the man Traoré models himself on, the founding father of modern-day Burkina Faso, iconic revolutionary Thomas Sankara. Sankara led an anti-imperialist movement in the 80s as president.
Monsieur le Président,
and brought in groundbreaking domestic reform. Decades on, Traoré appears to be following in his footsteps by nationalizing key sectors such as gold mining, supported by revolutionary advisors like Luc Damiba.
The first day he take the power, he come here and take the flame of the revolution.
The president moved Sankara's body to be buried here at the site of his assassination, against the wishes of Sankara's surviving family, and launched a nationwide crackdown on dissent as he approached the same age Sankara was when he was killed.
There's a moment you have to be a serious country. When you come, you have a discipline. And this kind of discipline, we don't allow every person to say what he think. He can say that in his private space, but to destabilize the revolution, we don't allow this thing in here.
And is that like, you know, communist China or the Soviet Union? Is that the model?
So you see the dumpier question she's asking. This man is telling her we are fighting a revolution. And so is that the model of communist China or Russia and those things? What is wrong with that? Because the last time we checked, look at Libya, U.S. democracy. Look at Libya. So if communist China go in Africa and do better than U.S. democracy in Libya, then U.S. democracy in Sudan, there's U.S. democracy in Somalia, in many parts of Africa. Why can't the people go with communist China or Russia or Russia, USSR? If the life of the people are improved, if the life of the people are improved and they are independent and they manage their own resources, why can't they go with it? So they want us, make us to think that China communist is bad. USSR government is bad. Look at Russia. If it is bad, Russia protect herself, her technology, or she feed herself everything. Look at China. Feed yourself everything, but look at Africa where we have this so-called democracy. We can't feed ourselves. Look at hunger, look at poverty. So it is not about whether Russia communist or China communist is dead. That's not the issue. And you think we're going to look at it to say, oh, China communist is bad. No, we're not looking at it as bad, because look at China. Who don't want to live in China? Africans are going to China for education, going to China, buying their goods. Africans want to go to Russia for education. So why not? So it is not about Russia, China, or communist China. No, it is about what works for Africa and for African interest. That is what we're looking at. What works for Africa and for African interest. Period.
Yes, why not? We have Cuba, we have Venezuela, we have Iran. We have connect to this kind of country.
In the last year, Traoré has criminalized homosexuality, dissolved political parties and the Electoral Commission, and sent journalists and activists who've spoken critically to the front line of a war against jihadists. A war.
So, with all the good things that is going on in Burkina Faso, on this young man, this lady is not talking about it, but she's talking about how Ibrahim Traoré have dissolved homosexuality. Oh, God. Look, if anybody want to practice homosexuality, they can come to Europe and America and practice it. Nobody got issue with that. But that is a different society. That is a different culture. The same way in the US, right? You see it, or how they call it? What they think here? Monogamy or polygamy. The same way you see polygamy as an issue in the US, right? That's the same way we see homosexuality, men and men, woman and woman in Africa. That's the same way we see it as abomination. The same way you see polygamy in the US, right, as how to call it, abomination, is the same way we see gay and lesbians in those countries as abomination. So what good for you here, it may not good for Africa, and what good for Africa, it may not be good for you, because there's a different society and that's a different society. So Africa does not have issue of what you practice, what you do. That's your business. Africa does not have issue. So don't have issue with what Africa do. Respect Africa and respect what Africans believe in. Period. What you see as human rights, Somebody somewhere may not see it as human right. Somebody somewhere on their own place, based on their culture, based on their way of life, they see it against human right. Okay? Men was made different for different purpose, and women were made different for different purpose. That's why women get breath, men don't get breath. That's why men get seed, women don't have seed. That's why women are the guardian, men is not the guardian. That's why women accept, men do not accept. That's why men release, women do not release. That's why men gave, women does not give. You understand that? That's why women keep, men does not keep. That's why every month women release, every month men do not release. So it is abomination for men to do another man than doing woman. So you can keep your thing on a side and don't carry on your side.
Shrouded in denial and thousands of civilian deaths. What follows is a question on the war that Traoré's team cut from our interview footage that we sourced from the online page of his state broadcaster.
La Russie a-t-elle été efficace pour...
So you see what she said? There was something on their online broadcaster that Traoré cut off. Why Traoré get to cut off something that he's not getting? So you see the narrative. You see the narrative there. This idiot is trying to give to the world.
Has Russia been effective in helping you fight terrorism?
Alors, il faut que les gens comprennent quelque chose.
So, you see, as a journalist, right, let me say this. If surely she was for the interest of Africans, she asked a dumb question, has Russia been effective? What you should have asked is, Mr. President, we understand the French troops were here. The United States troops, they were here. Canadian troops here. German troops here. Now, why did you take them out? Did you take them out because they did not succeed or they were not doing the right thing? But she went straight to Russia. So had the Russian people succeed? So simply she's trying to say, now you took the American army out, you took the French army out, whatsoever, but you brought in, or how they call it, Russia. Have the Russian people succeed in fighting jihadi? Well, let the answer the man give her.
True that the Russian President Vladimir Putin wished to provide us with all the resources we needed to fight against terrorism, even with soldiers. But I used to say that we are Burkina Faso. No one will come and fight on our behalf, and that is non-negotiable principle. So Russia has opened doors for us in terms of equipment. They are ready to sell us whatever weapon we want to buy. This is of a great help. Let me tell you that many European countries refuse to sell us weapons, but not Russia.
Apparently you can go from zero.
So you see what Ibrahim Traoré told her. Russia is our ally. Russia is our friend. Because Russia sold or sell to us weapons that we use to fight the enemies. But these European nations refuse to sell us enemy. But they gave enemy the weapons. That's a terrorist behavior. So that means you work with the terrorists. And you see, in one of Ibrahim Traoré posts, right, video before, he said they went to Turkey to buy weapons. The United States government told Turkey not to sell weapons to them. They went to Turkey to buy weapons. When they got there, they were told that the Western government say we shouldn't sell you guys weapons. It was Russia that sold them weapons to fight. So who will you love and who will you hate? Will you hate the man that empower you to fight the enemies, or love the man that said we will not sell you weapon and that told other people not to sell you weapon, but instead those people that's giving weapon to the terrorists to come before you? Will you love the man that is giving weapon to the terrorist, empowering the terrorists? So you see, so why should the West or US or Washington DC or Europe get angry if Africans are taking stand? If Africans are thinking and say, you know what? We got to look different side, because the people we think they are our friend are not our friend, but rather they are the ones supporting the terrorists against our will. You see that? So Russia gave them arm to fight the terrorists. The same terrorists that are being supported by USAID, according to a congressman. You see that? Let's continue.
To a complete site in just a single prompt with Wix Harmony. I don't know if this is going to be possible. Or
Secondly, we have been sharing with Russia some expertise in terms of war.
I then asked the president if this approach works, considering that more than 60% of Burkina Faso, a majority of the country, is under jihadist control. He laughs and asks who said that. These are the facts, I say, and they can be found online.
En ligne.
En ligne, vérité, les faits.
Ah oui, voilà, c'est ça, c'est ça.
Ah yes, that's exactly it. It's the same people there, the same media, the same government. They are painting Burkina in the bad light. And that's false. But I'm the head of state. Name a town. There are just a few towns I haven't visited yet. I go everywhere and everyone goes everywhere. They're lying.
These verified online videos of jihadist attacks are the only source of credible visual evidence, as Traoré's government restricts movement around the country and targets human rights.
So you see that Traoré government restrict movement around the country. Not the jihadi. You see the narrative. Not the jihadi that is restricting movement around the country. And second, she went in to say about 60% of the nation have been under siege by jihadi. And that's why the man was asking her, where did she get that information from? And you saw she's setting that she can't. Now you see the thing about them when they speak. She asked this man a question, right? In fact, not a question, but she made a statement. She said about 60% of the nation is under jihadi. And the man asked her, where did she get that information from? Now she can't talk. She can't give the source. Then the man have to now say, you see, that's the same thing the other media then do. And that's why I expel them. And that's the same thing you do. And that's where you got your information from. You never got your information from us. You never got your information from a state-run media. But you got it from a propaganda. And that's what the man was telling her. You got it from a propaganda. The same thing I expelled them for, that's the same thing when you got your information and you came and telling me 60% of the nation is under jihadi. Are you here fighting? So you have satellites to see all these things, right? But you do not have satellite to see where the jihadi are, to let me know so I can go shoot and kill the jihadi and unalive them. But you have information on where the jihadi go. Who gave you this information? You see that? I'm going to take this out. But you see where we're going. You see the propaganda. You see the propaganda, right? Anyway, now watch some few things here.
Should the world tolerate you having nuclear weapons and not, say, Iran?
First, again, we never admitted to have such weapons, but the very comparison is, I must say, it's very insulting, and I tell you why. We suffered one Holocaust. We listened to our neighbors.
Is it because of the Holocaust that you should be allowed to have nuclear weapons?
You know what? This interview was finished now. Your attitude is so hostile, and your questions are so arrogant. I don't want to
Is it the
speak
case
anymore.
that why should the world tolerate you having nuclear weapons and not, say, Iran?
First,
Now, I brought this in, right, because I want to make some analysis here. This is why Africa, a whole continent, and we need to make our own weapon. And Ibrahim Traoré spoke about it. I'm going to bring that video. This man that was being interviewed is an Israeli official. And you see the thing about it, right? Iran, and again, this, I'm not talking in favor of Iran, right? But for educational purpose, to enlighten African where we are and where we need to stand. Israel does not even have the United Nations resolution to have nuclear weapon, but Israel have it. Israel does not, by right, according to international law, Israel is not supposed to have nuclear weapon, but Israel have it. And according to international law, Iran is supposed to have nuclear weapon. According to international law, Iran is supposed to have nuclear weapon and not Israel. But Iran does not have nuclear weapon, Israel have nuclear weapon. But look at the question the man asked him. Why are you allowed? Why do you have nuclear weapon and Iran shouldn't have it? And he said, by asking him that question, in fact, is a dumb question. In fact, he feel hurt. And then his answer was, we need to have nuclear weapon because of the Holocaust that we went through. Now, to my African people, this Israeli official said, Israel need to have a nuclear weapon to protect herself because of the Holocaust that they went through with another European. Because the people in Israel, they are European. They are not God-chosen people. They are impostors. They are European who left Europe and went and settled there. All right? So Germany, another European fought another European and killed another European. So he's saying because of what we went through, because of that Holocaust, that is why we need to have nuclear weapon. So Africans, I don't have problem with what this man said in our video. If I sit here and say I have problem with what he said, then I am also saying I have problem of African people defending themselves. Because by right, everyone need to defend themselves. So this is my question. This man said Israel went through the Holocaust. These white people, these European, these impostors are in Israel. These German, these people are the German for European, right? Because they were European, all right? They went through the Holocaust with Germany after Hitler. Because of that, they need to have nuclear weapons to protect themselves so that they can go through that Holocaust again, so that they can go through, they can face that again. African people, isn't it right for you to have nuclear weapon too, so that you can't go through slavery again? Because what black people, what African people went through was more than the Holocaust. Because it was about 6 million Jews, according to, that's the figure, they get the figures, right? They get the figures. But over 20 million African people died on sea, even before reaching a new war. Yes. And then when they reach a new war, another millions die through hardship. So it was more than the Holocaust. Because the Holocaust does not even come close to what African they've been. So if we want to talk about African Holocaust, it's Holocaust in Holocaust in Holocaust in Holocaust. It did not end it. The same people came back on the African continent and devoured Africa, cut Africa into cake, and did not stop there. The same way they lynch people in the Western world, in the New World, that's how they lynch African on the African continent. So the same number of deaths, okay, on the transatlantic slave trade, and after the New World, they reached to the New World, it is about the same amount of death. When they went back to colonize, they divide Africa into pieces. It was about the same amount of death. So it is more than a Holocaust. So if you are saying, because of the Holocaust, that you should have nuclear weapon, Africans, aren't we too not supposed to have nuclear weapon too? So that we can protect ourselves against the people who colonize us, against the people who enslave us, against the people who rape our mothers, against the people who fed our babies to alligator bait? Don't we have the right to have nuclear weapon to protect ourselves against them? It's a question I ask you Africans that believes in too much Israel. You don't pray for Israel. You don't pray for this. You are the Israel that you need to pray for yourself. Those people are sending off a Satan. You are the Israel that you need to protect and fight for yourself. You need to pray for yourself. You are the Israel. Now they killed us in our place. Let's continue here.
Adolf Hitler, good. Pop quiz, who's this? You don't know, do you? The average American can tell you who Adolf Hitler is, but they can't tell you who King Leopold II of Belgium is. And I think that that is an indictment on the American educational system. We're always taught about the Holocaust, how Adolf Hitler oversaw the extermination of over 10 million people, as we should. We should be taught about that. But why aren't we taught about a genocide that this man oversaw 30 years before the Holocaust? In 1884, European powers split Africa. They partitioned it. They basically said, hey, I want this country because it has that resource. King Leopold wanted the Congo, and he created the Congo Free State and oversaw the Congo Free State from 1885 to 1908. This was during the period of a rubber boom worldwide. People needed rubber for cars. People needed rubber for bikes. And guess where you can find a lot of rubber? The Congo. So King Leopold utilized secret police to basically enslave the people of the Congo to extracting rubber. And if they missed a quota, they would get their hands cut off. He said, for every bullet you use, I need a hand in return. In those 20 or so years, historians estimate that he killed over 15 million Congolese people. Not only did he kill this many people, they also estimate that the population of the Congo shrunk from 20 million to 10 million people. The reason I think it's so problematic that we have this massive gap in our education system is that it seems that when it's Black people or people of color that are being genocided, it doesn't matter. You would think that King Leopold lived in the 1500s. But no, him and Hitler were alive at the same time. His rule over the Congo ended in 1908 and he died in 1909. The Holocaust starts like 30 years later. What King Leopold did in the Congo be traced directly to the Democratic Republic of Congo's instability to this day. It set the course and set the precedent for the exploitation of Africa's resources that we're still seeing to this day. Pop quiz, who is this? Adolf Hitler.
Happened earlier this year as the Iranian regime took to the streets and slaughtered what the president tells me is 45,000 civilians in their own country. After that took place, President Trump told me the United States sent guns to the Iranian protesters. He tells me we sent them a lot of guns. We sent them to the Kurds, and the president says he thinks the Kurds kept them. He went on to say we sent guns to the protesters, a lot of them. And
hold up. I need to comprehend what I just heard. You're telling me that the United States of America, the president of the United States of America, not only told Iranian people rise up against their government and take over their institutions, he armed them. He armed them. Can you imagine if Iran had armed American citizens to rise up against the American government? I'm sorry. Are you not comprehending what I'm comprehending? How can he possibly get away with this? And you know what? This speaks volumes. It speaks volumes because there was that whole conspiracy theory. Well, it was being presented as a conspiracy theory that revolts in Iran was being CIA/Mossad led. And I was like, well. And now I'm like, Trump just confirmed it. Because if you're arming the protesters, if you're arming Iranians, then it means that some of what we've heard is the truth. Does that mean that the CIA and Mossad pretended to be Iranians and killed Iranians so that it looks like it's the Iranian government that did it? Look, I have no doubt in my mind that the Iranian government killed their own people. I might have a question about the numbers. Someone said 30,000 in 2 days, 45,000. I'm like, how did that happen? How did it happen? We can all see how Israel murdered tens of thousands, right, in Gaza. They flattened it. They used bombs. But last time I checked, there were no bombs. So in Iran, being used by the Iranian government. So I'm trying to understand how this number was reached. I don't doubt.
All right, so you saw that. You heard that. According to a news report, the United States armed the Iranian protester. So you see what they do. And I think we said this before. Before they went into Iran, they used the citizens to start protesting against their government. And then when they felt that it was enough to go in to kill the president so that there will be, uprising, and then they will instill new government, that's how they went in, and which turned out to be different. So you see, they armed the citizens, the protesters. And as we learn, some of those protesters even kill police. And that's how the police or the soldiers, right, kill those protesters. And then Human Rights Watch again went in with another fake narrative. So you see what they do. So if they can arm protesters, it is not strange. That's what they do on the African continent. They arm these terrorists. So you see it. So you see what they do. Destabilization, regime change. That's what they went for in Iran, but it backfired. So Africans, we have to know what is going on. Who are our friends? Who should we bring close? And who should we tell them back off? And this go to the African leaders. You want to be in a very perspective country, that's fine. But you better do what Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are doing and find alliance. Because the truth is, we are not on your side. We are on the side of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And I think you're supposed to know by now what is going on. You're supposed to understand the understanding of the youth, the understanding of African all around the world, in and out of Africa. But now you so-called African leader, but now you should see it and know what we stand for. We are not on your side. If you are individual, we are on the side of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And we will continue to talk about them for Eastern, Western propagandists want to come and do anything crazy or stupid. We are not on your side because we know this media will not come to speak about the ill in society that you are doing because you are protecting foreign policy. So we are not on your side. We will fight to protect Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso will not become another Libya. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso will not become another Robert Mugabe or another Zimbabwe. It will not happen.
Leaders are corrupt. African people are lazy. You know, the racists amongst the West say they're less able, they're less developed, etc. And what they always try and do is deflect attention from the real reason. The real reason is Africa has had to be blocked on the industrialization path. It had to. And the reason, and this is the real resource curse, is because Africa has the resources, and if Africa uses them, moving down that is industrialization path, Africa will quickly become an advanced country. Advanced, 55 countries, an advanced continent. And if one thinks of Africa as an advanced continent, the whole geopolitical world is going to change. It's going to be turned upside down. The established powers don't want this.
The established power don't want it. That is Europe, America, and their partners. They don't want it. So you see. So no matter what we do, the minds of these people are set. If there are no alternative, Africa is going nowhere. That is why they brought down Nkrumah. That is why they brought down Gaddafi. They brought down Robert Mugabe. And they don't support any good governance for the people to be empowered, to be free, to be sovereign. They don't support such government. They don't talk about such government. So you see their aim, you see what they want, and you see what they've been working towards, and what they've been working against, what they've been working towards, and what they've been working against. You see it. Because they do not want to come and ask Africans. If Africans, start doing their own thing and become empowered, and they do not want to come and ask us to share with them. No, they are too big for that. They can't do that because their forefathers didn't do it, so they will not do it. You see it? Africa will never develop, will never move on as long we keep tied with the West and we don't tell them no. We are not saying we're going to call up from the West, but it has to be done the African way, not Washington, D.C. way, not England way, not a colonizer way. It has to be done African way. And that is why we are on their back. For every move they make, we will make that move and expose them.
What is happening in Iran today is the exact reason why Iran should have built a nuclear weapon earlier on. They will not go to North Korea. The Americans have been threatening to go there since the 50s. They are not going to attack Russia because they know the consequence. It's just my own piece of advice, especially to African countries that still believe in international law. There is no international law. Wake up, wake up. What is happening in Iran today is the exact reason why Iran should have built a nuclear weapon earlier on. They will not go to North Korea. The Americans have been threatening to go there since the 50s. They are not going to attack Russia because they know the consequence. It's just my own piece of advice, especially to African countries that still believe in international law. There is no international law. Wake up, wake up.
That's why we at war. We have no understanding with each other. And it's a sad thing. And not having an understanding because not many people want to be in your place. How many people wish they was black or want to go through what black people have gone through and not that back then to this day, to this mother day. See, when I talk about it, they say, we can't think about old situations because it brings old feelings back up. So let me calm myself down. Because people don't understand what we as people go through. So when they got a person like me, a modern day Muhammad Ali, to come to the forefront to protect, to provide, and to educate, it becomes a problem because nobody want to go down memory lane or feel the feeling that we have felt for many years and still feel to this mother day. It's a touchy subject because it's not been long. And when I talk about where y'all people went and grabbed our mother people from our own land, then it's a problem because nobody really understand that we ain't bothered nobody. We ain't did nothing to no one. But tried to take care of our own, built our own, had our own. But then somebody come along in our land and want to take our land, trick our people, take our people, and kill them too. It's so much. Nobody wants to get in our shoes and feel what we felt for many years, and then they wonder why we so aggressive, why we so passionate about certain, because I only speak from passion. When I get in this rage, it's passion.
I understand.
Because of the history of what's been done. It can't be erased. It would never be forgotten. And some people would never forgive. But at the end of the day, they use Christianity as a weapon. They try to forgive our neighbors, right? But their history will never be erased. Why? That's why most black people don't even know where they come from. Because we had to take the last name of our slave owners. And then you want to look down on us? We did nothing to anyone. And still, oh man. It's a touchy situation because we did nothing. Nothing. But show how powerful we were as human beings, and we still powerful. That's why they never want us to come together. They hate to see another brother hug another brother and say, I love you, but I do that. And I'll forever do it. They have to kill me. Now, I don't hate anyone. Hatred is a strong dislike. I don't hate anyone. I love all people, but I love my people. You understand me? Just as any other people should love their people, and we should love all human beings because we are the human race. That's it. To love someone is free. That's simple to do. You understand me? Until someone do something to you, now you got a reason to hate them, to dislike them, to want to cause harm against them. But if you don't know this person, how can you not like this person or cast stone against this person? Oh, because of the color of their fucking skin? Get out of here. Get real. Get serious.
I agree with you.
Man, make you want to slap somebody. So I'm going to sip my tea. That's
King Leopold II of Belgium claimed the Congo as his personal property. He wants rubber, sends his army with quotas, 20 kilograms per man, per day. Miss it? They cut off your hand. Soldiers bring baskets of severed hands as proof. A father brings 19 kilograms, one short. They take his daughter's hand instead. She's 5. Villages that resist? Burned, everyone inside. The Shikot, a whip made of hippo hide, shreds flesh off backs, 20 lashes standard, 50 for running, 100 for fighting. Most die from 100. A Belgian officer photographs himself at his desk, pile of human hands next to his coffee. 23 years, 10 million dead, half the population. Leopold never visits, not once. Makes $1 billion, builds palaces. 1904, photographs leak. The world sees. 1908, Belgium forces him to give up the Congo. He keeps the money. Dies in 1909, age 74, wealthy, comfortable. No trial, no prison, no punishment. His statues still stand in Brussels today. The Congo never recovered. 10 million dead, hands cut for rubber. He never visited, died rich.
Wow. Wow. See, when people keep asking, why is Africa the way it is? It's because your history that you've learned and think you know is all a lie, because they wouldn't teach you this in schools. Like, can you imagine making billions of dollars in 1908, 1907, and they get to keep the money? And that money is still in Belgium. The families, generations are still wealthy because of that. 10 million people lost their lives, arms cut, up in Congo. And you ask, why are countries in Africa not prospering? It's because of these things that have been planted for centuries and probably going to keep going, because there's still institutions that are making sure that these things continue in different formats. Well, welcome to class. I'm teaching you some history stuff that you're not going to.
So these are the people that are coming to tell Africans about human rights. Isn't that is laughable? It's very laughable. For, I mean, it is only the ignorant Africans who will still sit and see people coming from the Western world to come and preach human rights to them. Because I, for once, I know my history. I have no respect for any human rights entity from the West, coming from the West. I have no respect until they can address the atrocity caused against Africans. That we are still living the ramification, we are still living the effect, until that human right from the West can address that and bring it to an end. I have no respect for any human rights organization coming from the West, especially what they call the Human Rights Watch. It is a terrorist organization because it will never talk about these things.
Ibrahim Traoré! I love y'all, Africa. Keep up the good work and keep our great captain protected. Ibrahim Traoré! I love y'all, Africa. Keep up the good work and keep our great captain protected.
With the books in their hand, saying, show us the rivers, please show us the land. And we, with the hearts of the warm summer sun, we welcome the strangers, we didn't see the gun. They wrote in their diaries, they measured the stone. They smiled at our children. They sat in our home. We offered them water. We offered them bread. But they were counting.
Because of the video, the music playing at the back, we have to pause it, right? So we have no copyright to the video, okay? So these are the people that are talking about human rights. But you see, human rights started on the African continent. They came to us, we offered them, water, our food, we offered them our land, our culture. We did not know them. We began to expose ourselves to them. And now I knew they had something hidden agenda, in their heart towards us and things. That's what the media is talking about, and stuff. So the media is just telling us how hateful, how deceitful, these people are. So we shouldn't trust them when they come speaking to us about human rights, because actually when they came, we showed them what human rights is, and they went against that. And today they are coming, talking about human rights, this, that. They have no audacity. They are not in any good standing moral, all right, to tell about what human rights is. In fact, they are the greatest violator of human rights in the world.
The gold underneath where we tread, it was psychological warfare, dressed up as a friend, the beginning of the story. We didn't know then
we didn't know them, but now we know them. We didn't know that they are liars. We didn't know that they are looters. We didn't know that they are killers. We didn't know that they just bomb. We didn't know that they had no souls in them. But now we know that they have no souls. Now we know they are looters. They are liars. Now we know they dehumanize human beings. Now we know they have no human feelings. Now we know them. Now we know what they preach. That's not what they do. Now we know them. They are liars. Now we know they are synagogues of Satan. Now we know them.
Map the mountain and the mineral. The missionary mapped the spirit and the mind. The merchant mapped the market and the capital, and left the freedom of our fathers far behind. They told us, look up to the heavens, let your word be said. While they were down in the dirt, taking everything we made, they said,
they told us, look in the sky. Heaven is there. Look in the sky. Your reward is there. While they were on the soil, looting our diamond, our gold, our resources. While they were on the soil, devouring our African continent, and more themselves like a cake. While they were beating us, raping us, castrating us, they were doing all these kind of horrible things. While we forgot, we were looking in the sky. While looking in the sky for heaven to open so we can go there to our Redeemer. It divided us. Because we were not focusing again. It divided us. These devils.
The other cheek, wait for the promised land. We closed our eyes to pray, and they stole the sand. No, the ancestors didn't fail. They were ambushed by grace. They brought a war in a smile to a peaceful place.
They came with smile, but their smile were war. Their smile were hateful. Their smile had sword in their hand. Their smile were not peaceful.
Could even say amen. The chains were already on the wrists of the men. They walked off the water with the books in their hand, saying, show us the rivers, please show us the land. And we, with the hearts of the warm summer sun, we welcome the strangers, we didn't see the gun.
We welcomed them, but we didn't see the gun. We didn't see the knife. We didn't see that blood was in their eyes. We didn't see that they had different intention. But they sat down, though, they drank the water we gave them. They sat down, they ate the food we gave them. They sat down, even the gold we have with us, we gave it to them. But it never satisfied them. They told us, show all the way where they have that gold. Show all the land. Show all the river. We are your friends. We are human beings just like you. We did not know their intention. Synagogues of Satan.
They wrote in their diaries. They measured the stone. They smiled at our children. They sat in our home. We offered them water, we offered them bread, but they were counting the gold underneath where we tread.
Anyway, for copyright reason, right, we can, we gotta go. We gotta take it out. We gotta go. But let's continue.
Trump's second term, to see the kind of unbridled nature of just complete lack of regulation whatsoever, just free for all of global capitalism, taking the last vestige of any drop of minerals, oil, and just having it laid bare. I mean, I think that's the most amazing part of what we're seeing now is there's no pretense whatsoever. The human rights, democracy charade, it's totally out the window. And we're just saying we literally are going to just steal and pillage.
So African, you heard that. The human right democracy is nothing. It's about going to people's land and stealing the resources. That's what she said. Stealing the resources, looting. So you see, Human Rights Watch is a terrorist organization. They are liars. So you see what she's saying down there? Everything we say here, we try to find something that will connect to what we say.
Pillage every last drop of oil because we need it. So in a way, it's very clarifying, but it's also just so dystopian because I knew that it was coming, but I didn't realize how quickly it would all happen and how quickly it's happening, where now you have Marco Rubio and all of these complete unabashed psychopaths who are just kind of attaching themselves to Trump to say, how quickly can we barrel through our agenda with this dying, decaying fucking fascist and get Cuba and get Iran and Venezuela and Greenland. And it's just, there's no end in sight. And I think the most, it's really horrifying to see just the Democrats on full display as like the complete, utter, abject failure to get.
She knew the issue that is happening in Iran, it was coming. Those of you that are talking about, oh, Iran this, Iran that, you heard what she said? It was coming. She knew it was coming, but she didn't just know when. So in this case, are you telling me Iran does not have the right to protect herself? She is saying she knew this was going to happen, but she didn't just know as to when it was going to happen. Let's continue. Africa, say there, don't unite and build your army and build yourself. Sit down there. We are getting stupid.
Saying this is a black page. I do not give a fuck about white people. I don't, okay? I give a fuck about black people because you know what? White people are always looking for control and y'all looking for the fucking glory. We're constantly hearing from white people, oh, we need to unite against this government. We need to do this. We need to, no, you don't need to.
All right, let me answer somebody here. Mean, M-I-E. Men say you hate you hate white Africans. So what's the difference? Men say you hate white Africans. So what the difference? That's a good question. First of all, on my platform here, I didn't say I hate anybody. Let me repeat. I didn't say I hate anybody. This is what happened if you did not start the live. So I think you should reserve your comment or your question and then watch the recording after the live. Now, let me tell you this. There is nothing called white Africans. If you are not African, then you are not Africans. Then you are European. There is nothing called white Africans. And in fact, in Africa, we do not know what they call black African. There is only African, period. There is no blue Africans. There is no green Africans. There is no yellow Africans. You see, that's the European terminology. Just for Europeans to stay set themselves high above other races of other people, they come out with terms. White Africans. We don't have that in Africa. If you are not African, you are not Africans. Then you are European. Then go to Europe And I will say that to you. We do not have Black Africans. It sounds delusional to say Black Africans. It sounds stupid to say Black African. Yeah, you can say white African. That means you are not from Africa. That means your origin is from Europe. That means your origin is from the Caucasus Mountains. So you are not from Africa. So I understand what you are saying. Meaning you are not from Africa. Your originality is not from Africa. Your originality is from Europe. Your originality is from the Caucasus Mountains. So as far as I'm concerned, there is no Black African. No way, there is no Black Africans. There is only African. There is no blue African. There is no yellow Africans. There is no green Africans. There is no purple Africans. There is no rare Africans. There is only African. So if you are not African, you white African, that's your business. It just means you are not an African either. But you are trying to identify yourself as African, but you are not African. Rather, you are European or from the Caucasus Mountains. Now we can pass by that. I'm not going to block you, neither delete you, because you never wrote anything of insulting. You are just asking question. Now, I think I better answer your question. I do not hate anybody, okay? And let me be specific with you. I do not hate any race. What I said here earlier was, if any group of people, and I think you might be in our group, I don't know, but I think, based on what you just said here, I said if any group of people, whether a nation, whether a continent, whether an organization, you are against African freedom, you are against African unity, you are against African identity, you are against African sovereignty, you are a terrorist. And I also make it clear, I said, the reason why I said if you are against African sovereignty, you are a terrorist, because yesterday, people referred to Dr. King as a terrorist when Dr. King was fighting for human rights. When he was fighting for the right thing. Though he was fighting against, they call him terrorist because they saw it that he was fighting against a system. A system that was not useful to the human race. A system that was diminishing to the human race. That system called him terrorist. So my argument here is, if that system called Nelson Mandela a terrorist, if that system called Malcolm X an extremist, if that system called Dr. King a terrorist, today, if any system that is against African sovereignty and freedom, African humanity, that entity is a terrorist. Whether you are a nation, a continent, or an entity or organization, you are a terrorist. That was my statement. I didn't say I hate anyone. So if you are a CIA, just let us know that you are a CIA, and I'll block you. Let's continue.
Unite with anybody. You need to unite among yourselves. You know why? Because white people are always the aggressor, always attacking every fucking body around the fucking world and want to turn around and act like they're fucking victims. Right now, the Republican Party is asking Iran to give them compensation for a fucking war they started in Iran. They attack Iran, now they're looking for compensation. You understand? Just like when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed here, right? The first people that got paid, who were compensated, were the fucking slave owners. Black people are still fighting for reparations. When Haiti whooped France's fucking ass, all these fucking white people colluded, came together to force Haiti to pay reparations to fucking France. Right now, these pieces of shit are fucking starving Cuba for no fucking reason. And they want to act like they're the victim. Cuba's done nothing to you. See, I've been to fucking Cuba. I know what that society is like. The pieces of shit who were looking for proximity to whiteness in South Florida, those pieces of shit don't represent Cuba. Cuba has been a friend of Africa, the Caribbean, and black people all over. And if you look at the demographics in Cuba, right, almost half the fucking population is black. You understand? In Cuba, the per capita percentage of doctors for black doctors, that's the highest in the entire fucking world. Cuba is always extended an olive branch to black people, whether it's Jamaica, Angola, you name it, Haiti, they've always been there. But these motherfuckers are selling you on some bullshit because you're not traveling, you're not learning the true history. This is why I travel around the world. This is why I fucking write books, A Time for Revenge, The Black Revolution, and other books to educate you, to make you understand these motherfuckers are always looking for glory.
If Gaddafi was alive, 100% I would interview Gaddafi. Do you ever hear Russell Crowe talk about Gaddafi? Where he talked about why they wanted to get rid of Gaddafi? Like, well, they talked about how evil Gaddafi was and how he subjugated his people. Here it is.
So we are taught, for example, to regard Gaddafi in a certain way, okay? But if you look into what happened in his country while he was the leader, you look into the fact that every person is given a house at a certain age. You look at the fact that everybody's education and healthcare is free. You look at if somebody showed a particular talent for something that required further education overseas, all of the costs of that were paid for by the government. Now, these are all things put in place by the same country's leader that we're told is evil and corrupt.
Yeah.
So it doesn't quite balance.
There are moments.
So where is the so-called Human Rights Watch? Because here it is, people are talking about it, right? Look at Gaddafi today. I mean, look at Libya today. Where is that so-called Human Rights Watch? A terrorist organization, a terrorist group, Human Rights Watch. The truth is, we don't respect you on the African continent again. And because of this, anything called Human Rights Watch, we see you on the African continent, try to interview anybody, we will rent you out. Now you just expose yourself, you Human Rights Watch, you just expose yourself to the African continent.
We have tried it, and where has it led us? To the brink of the abyss. Those are not the words of a leader reciting a carefully approved diplomatic script. They are the televised words of Ibrahim Traoré, broadcast in April 2026, staring directly into the lens of an unsettled global order. It is a brutal, unvarnished truth that dismantles decades of conventional international policy. For over half a century, the region has been handed a very specific, inflexible prescription: accept foreign aid, adopt Western political frameworks, and peace will inevitably follow. Yet, what has been the actual harvest of this grand experiment? Instead of security, the soil has been saturated with conflict. Instead of economic dignity, the people have been left to choke on the dust of relentless insurgency. Today, a staggering 1/4 of all global terrorist attacks occur strictly within the borders of Burkina Faso. The ones who suffer this reality are not the policy architects sitting in distant European capitals. The ones who pay the ultimate price are the ordinary citizens. They are the men and women with calloused hands, trying to plant seeds of hope in a landscape actively consumed by fire. If sovereignty matters more than noise, stay with me, and we will follow the evidence line by line. To understand this unprecedented pivot, we must look past the outrage of the international press and examine the precise breaking point. Imagine a house actively burning to the ground. You ask your historical partners for water, for the vital equipment to extinguish the flames. Instead, they offer you a lecture on fire safety compliance and firmly refuse to hand over the hose. This was the precise operational reality Burkina Faso faced. When the government attempted to purchase necessary military equipment to defend its sovereign territory, using its own sovereign wealth, multiple Western nations outright refused the sale. That unified refusal was not merely a diplomatic hurdle, it was a profound, irreversible awakening. It was the exact moment the long-held illusion of benevolent partnership evaporated into the dry Sahelian wind. The international community hurdle. It was a profound.
All right, folks, let me make some clarity here. So you see the video here, right? You remember earlier on, those of you that started with me, I said the same way in the Western world, for example, you have neighborhood watch, right? And I said in Burkina Faso, right, we had our same neighborhood watch, but it's different from the neighborhood watch you have in the Western world, to some part of the Western world, because in Burkina Faso, the neighborhood watch are trained also to use weapons, right? Because when the terrorists come in, the terrorists are trained. They have weapons. They have modern weapons from the Western world, right? That the Western world gave to them, Western organization gave to them, so they are trained. So when they get to the village, for example, in Burkina Faso, right, they shoot and they kill. So the neighborhood watch, right, are also trained. Ibrahim Traoré trained and gave them firearm too, that they can fight before soldier can come in and things. So what you see here, right, are example of the neighborhood watch, as you can see right here. You see them working, you see them cleaning out, but they still have that weapon. You see them here. So these are the people from the village that the human rights watch, that terrorist group, try to frame as the people who are killing the Burkinabe. You see them working here among civilians. See them here. They are among their own people, among their own civilians working, cleaning the place. But they are the people that the Human Rights Watch went and took a video of terrorists and said, these are the people that Ibrahim Traoré gave gun to. These are the people that are killing the people. Do you see the narrative? Do you see how these Human Rights Watch, that terrorist group, you see how they lie? Now you see it here, right? Let's continue.
Irreversible awakening. It was the exact moment the long-held illusion of benevolent partnership evaporated into the dry Sahelian wind. The international community demanded rapid democratization, while the nation was fighting for its physical survival. They demanded the organization of elections while rural schools were being dismantled and millions of civilians were being displaced from their ancestral homes. But a ballot box cannot intercept an armed convoy. A political campaign cannot reclaim territory lost to violent extremism. A piece of paper cannot defend a village in the dead of night. This contradiction forces a monumental, defining question. When a nation is pushed to the absolute precipice of collapse, does it continue to beg for conditional assistance? Or does it execute a radical pivot to forge its own survival, regardless of the diplomatic fallout? Burkina Faso made its choice. They discarded the external conditions. They abandoned the diplomatic waiting game. They embraced a reality built strictly on their own terms. The leadership declared a popular progressive revolution, pivoting away from civilian transition timelines and moving directly toward a model of total war and uncompromising self-reliance. However, when a nation decisively slams the door on the traditional architects of global power, it does not simply step into a quiet void. It steps onto a highly volatile new board. By turning its back on Western military dependence, Burkina Faso has actively reached out to secure a completely different kind of arsenal, and the new partnerships they are forging in the dark are currently keeping the highest corridors of power in both Washington and Paris wide awake at night. The shift from diplomatic compromise to the anatomy of a revolution was not merely a change in leadership, it was a total reconstruction of the national identity. Ibrahim Traoré, the world's youngest head of state, did not just suspend the existing political playbook, he burned it. By early 2026, the military transition, originally slated to conclude with civilian elections, was officially extended by an additional 5 years. To the Western observer, this appeared to be a retreat into authoritarianism. To the streets of Ouagadougou, it was framed as a necessary hardening of the shield. Traoré's justification is rooted in a grim historical comparison that resonates deeply across the African continent, the collapse of Libya. He argues that the forced imposition of Western democratic models in the absence of absolute security is not a gift, but a death sentence. He points to the ruins of Tripoli as evidence that when a state is hollowed out by external political demands, the only thing that grows in the vacuum is chaos. Therefore, the decree was issued, political parties are suspended, the National Electoral Commission is dissolved, and the nation has entered a state of progressive popular revolution. This is not a revolution of rhetoric alone. It is a revolution of the wallet and the forge. Underpinning this defiance is a massive economic development plan valued at $64 billion, stretching from 2026 to 2030. This is the doctrine of economic patriotism. For decades, the wealth of the soil, specifically the vast gold reserves of Burkina Faso, seem to flow everywhere except into the hands of the people. Traoré has moved to reclaim this resource, using the nation's own gold to fund its own survival. This financial autonomy has allowed the government to bypass the conditional loans of international institutions. Instead of begging for handouts, they are engaging in direct trade. They are purchasing sophisticated Bayraktar drones from Turkey, advanced surveillance equipment from China, and heavy munitions from Russia. These are not gifts. They are cold, hard transactions. The message is clear. Burkina Faso is no longer a ward of the international community. It is a customer in a global marketplace. On the battlefield, the strategy has shifted from foreign-led operations to a localized grassroots mobilization. The concept of the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, the VDPS, represents the ultimate metaphor of the calloused hand. These are ordinary citizens, farmers and tradesmen who have taken up arms to defend their own villages. Traoré's philosophy is built on the belief that no foreign soldier, regardless of their technology or training, can fight for the soil with the same intensity as the man who was born upon it. The president often asks a pointed rhetorical question to his critics. Is it God who showed the Europeans how to make war? Do they have a different brain than ours? This rejection of intellectual and military inferiority is the heartbeat of the new Burkina Faso. They are developing a war for our war, a localized doctrine that prioritizes indigenous knowledge of the terrain over foreign manuals that have consistently failed to stop the insurgency. If this helped you think more clearly, a simple thank you in the comments is more than enough, and we continue. But as the military footprint expands and the state tightens its grip, the friction between security and liberty becomes a volatile spark. Reports began to circulate in early 2026 regarding internal threats that were no longer theoretical. Alleged coup plots, reportedly coordinated by exiled figures like Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba and funded by interests in neighbouring Côte d'Ivoire, have forced the government onto a permanent war footing. Traoré has promised a total war against anyone perceived as a traitor to the revolution. The space for dissent is shrinking, international media outlets are being silenced, and the internal security apparatus is becoming increasingly uncompromising. The government claims these measures are the only way to prevent a repeat of the 1987 tragedy that claimed the life of Thomas Sankara. Yet, as the state mobilizes for its absolute survival, a dark shadow is beginning to stretch across the rural north and east. The very forces meant to protect the people are now facing devastating allegations that threaten to undermine the moral foundation of the revolution itself. Every harvest demands a price, and in the Sahel, that price is often measured in the most precious currency of all, human life. As the state tightens its grip to secure the soil, the weight of sovereignty begins to press heavily upon the shoulders of the ordinary citizen. This is the paradoxical core of the revolution. To save the nation must be transformed into a fortress, but every fortress has its shadows. The mobilization of the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, the VDPs, has been the central pillar of this new domestic order. These are the hands that have traded the plough for the rifle, the sweat of the field for the heat of the front line. For many, they represent the ultimate expression of dignity, a people refusing to wait for a foreign savior. Yet, as the lines between civilian and combatant blur, the fog of war grows denser. Between 2023 and 2025, international observers and human rights organizations began documenting a disturbing trend. Reports from Human Rights Watch allege that over 1,200 civilians were killed during counterinsurgency operations. These reports suggest that in the desperate scramble to root out the shadows of extremism, the light of justice has occasionally been dimmed. The accusations are heavy: extrajudicial killings and the targeting of specific tribal communities, such as the Fulani, who are caught in a devastating crossfire between state suspicion and terrorist recruitment. However, from within the war room in Ouagadougou, the perspective is entirely different. Under the uncompromising leadership of Ibrahim Traoré, the government has dismissed these allegations as a coordinated campaign of disinformation. To the Revolutionary Council, the West's sudden concern for human rights is a strategic hypocrisy. They ask, where was this international outrage when thousands of Burkina children were being barred from their schools by terrorist threats? Where were the humanitarian headlines when rural villages were being systematically burned to the ground by insurgents for over half a decade? For the state, the choice is binary. Either the nation survives by any means necessary, or it perishes while adhering to the refined rules of a world that refuses to help it. This is the heavy harvest. It is the cold realization that independence is not merely a flag or a song. It is a calloused, often brutal struggle to maintain order in the face of total annihilation. If you want the lights kept on for careful analysis, consider joining as a member. We will stay precise and separate what is documented from what is disputed. Endurance. The people are being asked to sacrifice the luxury of debate for the necessity of survival. This domestic hardening has not only changed the internal landscape of a specific set of gates, Paris, Brussels, and Washington. This was the established order, a framework of dependency where legitimacy was granted in exchange for compliance. But today, those gates are being bypassed entirely. The bridge to the old world has not just been damaged, it has been intentionally dismantled. The international response to this defiance has been a mixture of shock, condemnation, and profound confusion. The African Union and ECOWAS, the regional economic bloc, have struggled to find a language that can contain this new reality. To the bureaucrats in Abuja and Addis Ababa, the suspension of democracy in the region is a dangerous contagion. They see the dissolution of political parties and the extension of military rule as a betrayal of the continental progress made since the 1990s. Yet, within the borders of Burkina Faso, the perspective is entirely different. There is a sense that the old regional institutions were never built to protect the people, but rather to protect the status quo of a governing elite. Ibrahim Traoré has not merely left the table of ECOWAS, he has built a new table altogether. As of early 2026, Burkina Faso has taken the helm as the chair of the Alliance of Sahel States, the AES. This is more than a security pact. It is a declaration of a new geopolitical axis. Alongside Mali and Niger, Traoré is forging a sovereign bloc that seeks to decouple the Sahel from Western financial and military influence once and for all. Where are you watching from, city and country? From all of us here at
All right, folks, let's play the last video and then we call it for a day. I'd like to end with this video from the Kings of Kings, the only one, Ibrahim Traoré, the greatest leader of our time on the planet, the greatest leader of our time on the planet.
Faso today, they accuse us. They say, my brothers and sisters of Burkina Faso today, they accuse us. They say we are against human rights. They say we suppress voices. They say we are the problem. But I ask you, my people, what do they truly mean by human rights? What is this concept they speak of so loudly, yet practice so selectively? Because here in Burkina Faso, we are fighting for the most fundamental human right of all, the right to life. And that is a right we will never compromise. They come to us with questions, with cameras, with reports written from faraway lands. They ask, is there human rights in Burkina Faso? And I answer them clearly, yes, there are human rights here. But we define them through action, not through words. We defend them with sacrifice, not with speeches. Because while they speak, our soldiers bleed. While they write reports, our children face bullets from terrorists. While they accuse us, we bury our dead. Tell me, my people, where are these defenders of human rights when terrorism strikes our villages? Where are they when our schools are burned, when our children are forced to flee, when fear replaces hope? Not one of them has given us even a single cartridge to defend ourselves. Not one has stood beside us in the battlefield where our nation fights for survival, and yet they dare to accuse us. We are fighting terrorism so that our people may live. We are fighting so that our schools may reopen, so that our children may return to education. Is education not a human right? Is safety not a human right? Is life itself not the greatest human right? Then tell me, who is truly defending human rights? Those who fight to protect their people, or those who sit far away and criticize without action? They speak of NGOs, hundreds of them, operating within our borders.
If you're a dad watching this and you don't have life insurance, we need to have an honest conversation here real quick.
They claim humanitarian purpose, but I ask you, do you truly believe all of them come with pure intentions? Do you believe that funding flows without agenda? No, we know what is happening. We see the influence. We see the attempts to shape minds, to divide our people, to weaken our sovereignty. And I say to you today, that will never happen again in Burkina Faso. No one will come into our land, fund division, indoctrinate our people, and destroy our nation from within. We are aware, we are vigilant, we are awake. And let us remember something important, something they often try to erase. Human rights did not begin in the West. Human rights were born here, in Africa. Long before their declarations and conventions, our ancestors had already established systems of justice, dignity, and respect. In the ancient lands of Mali, in the great civilizations of West Africa, charters existed that protected human dignity, that recognized the rights of individuals, including women. Yes, even women's rights existed here when much of the world had yet to recognize them. We were organized. We were structured. We were a society of balance and justice. And now, those who once denied rights to others come to lecture us about rights. It is unacceptable. They speak loudly about human rights, yet who are the ones dropping bombs on children across the world? Who are the ones destroying nations, destabilizing regions, and then calling it intervention? Is that their definition of human rights? Because that is not ours. Our definition is simple. We protect our people. Our soldiers give their lives so that our citizens may live. We work to reopen schools. We support our farmers so that no one goes hungry. We dig wells so that every citizen has access to clean water. These are not just policies. These are our commitments to human dignity. And yet they accuse us. They speak about the VDP, our volunteers who stand with courage to defend their communities. They accuse them of violations. I ask them, where is the proof? Where is the evidence? Because we, unlike them, do not hide from truth. When wrongdoing occurs, we act. When individuals commit abuses, they are held accountable. They are imprisoned. Justice is not a slogan here. It is a responsibility. But what do? They spread accusations without evidence. They create narratives. They manipulate perception. And often, what we find when we investigate is something far more dangerous: deception. Terrorists come into our villages wearing our uniforms. They disguise themselves with our flags, our insignia, and they commit atrocities. And then they record videos. They publish these videos. They spread them across social media, and suddenly the blame is placed on our army. Think about that. How do these videos reach certain organizations so quickly? How do these so-called observers gain access to such materials? Ask yourselves these questions, because the truth is not always what is presented to you. There have even been claims made using satellite imagery, accusations that large-scale abuses were observed from space. And yet, these same technologies cannot locate the terrorists we fight every day. Is that not an insult to our intelligence? Or is it that they believe we will not question them? This mentality, this belief that Africans are incapable, that we are less than human, it is dangerous, it is outdated, and it must end. We are not children to be lectured. We are not subjects to be controlled. We are a sovereign people capable of thinking, deciding, and leading ourselves. Our struggle is clear. It is not about power. It is not about politics. It is about survival. It is about security. It is about the future of our children. And despite everything, we stand strong. We live in unity. We move forward together. You can travel across our land. You can see the changes. You can witness the support of the people. You can feel the spirit of a nation rising. Because what we are building here is not just a government. It is a revolution of dignity. But understand this, my brothers and sisters, what is happening today is part of a larger pattern, a script used many times before. When Muammar Gaddafi sought to unite Africa economically, they called him a dictator. Then chaos followed. When Robert Mugabe reclaimed land for his people, they called him a tyrant. Then sanctions followed. When Nelson Mandela stood against apartheid, they called him a terrorist until the world could no longer deny the truth. The same script, different actors. And now they turn their attention to Burkina Faso. They say civilians are dying. They say human rights are under threat. They say Africa must be saved. But I ask you, who writes these reports? Who funds these narratives? Who benefits from this story?
The April 15th tax deadline is coming, and your max refund is a few steps away with TurboTax.
Because history has taught us something very important. Whenever Africa begins to rise, whenever a leader begins to break chains, whenever sovereignty replaces submission, a storm follows. Not a storm of truth, but a storm of propaganda. When I came into leadership, I did not bow. I did not ask for permission. I chose sovereignty. I chose independence. I chose to challenge systems that kept us dependent. And for that, we are now under attack, not with weapons, but with words, with narratives, with accusations. But Africa is not blind. Africa remembers. We remember slavery. We remember colonialism. We remember exploitation. And now those same voices that once justified oppression come to define human rights. For us, no, that time is over. A new consciousness is rising across our continent. Our youth are asking questions. Our nations are rethinking alliances. Our people are watching, learning, and awakening. And this time, Africa is not asleep. This time, Africa is not divided. This time, Africa is ready, but with clarity, because what we are facing today is not just pressure. It is a coordinated attempt to control our destiny. It is a calculated effort to weaken our unity, to distort our reality, and to justify interference in our sovereign decisions. They repeat the same words again and again: human rights, democracy, protection. But behind those words, there is a different intention. Because if their concern was truly human rights, then why is their silence so loud when injustice happens elsewhere? Why do they not raise the same urgency when bombs fall on innocent civilians in other parts of the world? Why is Africa always the focus when it chooses independence? We are not blind. We see the pattern. We understand the strategy. They create narratives. They amplify accusations. They repeat them until the world begins to believe them. And then, once perception is shaped, they act. This is how destabilization begins, not with truth, but with storytelling designed to serve interests. And what are those interests? Resources. Let us speak honestly today. Let us remove the mask and confront reality. They are not here because of our democracy. They are not here because of our human rights. They are here because of what lies beneath our soil. They want uranium. They want gold. They want oil. They want lithium. They want everything that Africa possesses, but they do not want Africans to control it. They look at Burkina Faso, at Niger, at Mali, and they see wealth, not the wealth of the people, but the wealth they wish to extract. And for decades, that is exactly what has happened. Our resources have built other nations while our people remained in struggle. But today, we have said enough. And because we have said enough, they are uncomfortable. They are uncomfortable because they can no longer control our leaders through political systems they understand. They are uncomfortable because this revolution is not built on their approval. It is built on the will of the people. I have said it before, and I will say it again clearly. Burkina Faso is not following the traditional path they expect. This is not a system where political parties divide our people and create opportunities for external influence. This is a revolutionary path, a path of unity, of purpose, of national interest above all else. And because of this, they cannot manipulate the system. They cannot install those who will serve their interests. And so now they try a different approach. They create chaos through narratives. They say there is instability. They say there is crisis. They say there is violence. And they repeat it again and again until it becomes their version of truth. But we who live here, we know our reality. We know the challenges we face. We know the fight against terrorism is real. We know that extremist groups are active across West Africa. But the question we must ask, and the question they never answer, is this: who is supplying these groups with weapons? Who is funding them? Who is training them? Because Africa does not produce these weapons. We do not have massive industries producing advanced arms, ammunition, and explosives. Yet these groups are equipped, organized, and persistent. So where is it coming from? This is the question they do not want you to ask, because once you begin to ask this question, the narrative begins to collapse. They want you to believe that the problem is within Africa, but the reality is far more complex. The reality is that instability is often sustained because it benefits certain interests. Look at history. Look at what happened in Libya. They said it was about protecting civilians. They said it was about human rights. And today, what is Libya? Where is the stability? Where is the leadership? Where is the peace? Look at Iraq. Look at Afghanistan. The same justifications were used, the same language was repeated, and the result was destruction, division, and long-term instability. And now they attempt to apply the same script to the Sahel. But this time we are aware. This time we are not silent. This time we are prepared. My people understand this. They do not want leaders who stand for Africa. They do not want leaders who cannot be controlled, because such leaders represent a threat, not to the people, but to systems of exploitation that have existed for generations. Any African leader who rises with independence, with courage, with a vision for true sovereignty is immediately labeled, targeted, and pressured. Today, they say I am the problem. But I ask you, is the problem a leader who refuses to surrender his country's resources? Or is the problem those who have benefited from our weakness for decades? We must be honest with ourselves. This is not about one man. This is about a movement. This is about a generation that has decided to stand up, to question, to refuse. And I tell you today, this movement cannot be stopped by narratives. My brothers and sisters, I also speak directly to Africans across the continent and across the world. This is not just Burkina Faso's struggle. This is Africa's struggle. Because if they succeed here, they will repeat it elsewhere. If they silence one voice, they will attempt to silence many. But if we stand together, if we remain united, if we refuse to be divided, then no force can break us. We must protect our dignity. We must protect our sovereignty. We must protect our future, because no one will do it for us. No one will build Africa for Africans except Africans. No one will defend Africa's dignity except Africans. No one will tell Africa's story except Africans. We cannot rely on those who have historically misunderstood us, exploited us, and underestimated us. This is our responsibility. And yes, I will say it clearly, when we are tired. We are tired of being told what is good for us by those who do not live our reality. We are tired of narratives that ignore our struggles while exaggerating our actions. We are tired of double standards. We are tired of silence when we suffer and noise when we stand. But our tiredness is not weakness, it is strength. Because from that frustration comes determination. From that determination comes action. And from that action comes change. My people, I know there is pain. I know there is anger. I know there is frustration. But I ask you, do not let that divide us. Do not let that turn us against each other, because that is also part of the script. Division, confusion, chaos. We must reject it. We must remain focused. We must remain united. And to the youth of Africa, I speak to you directly. You are the future of this continent. You are the ones who must think critically, who must question narratives, who must refuse manipulation. Do not accept everything you hear. Do not believe everything you see. Search for truth. Stand for truth. Defend truth. Because the future of Africa will be shaped not by those who speak the loudest, but by those who understand the deepest. And today I stand before you with one message. Africa is awakening. Africa is rising. And this time, Africa will not be controlled. They may continue their accusations. They may continue their pressure. They may continue their strategies, but we will continue our path, a path of sovereignty, a path of dignity, a path of independence. And this time, the ending will be different because Africa is no longer reading from their script. Africa is writing its own story, and the world will have to listen. Thank you.
Woo. All right, that's the end for today's discussion, and I have nothing to say because our greatest leader of all time, of our time, has spoken. The greatest leader on the planet, as we speak, has spoken. So nothing much I can say again. The message is clear. He is the greatest leader on the planet. Smart, brilliant, loving, very tactical, very visionary. I mean, humanity is in this man. Love, caring is in this man. This man can lead the entire African continent, just this man alone, if not for greedier, stupiest African politician. The greatest African, not African, but the greatest leader on the planet as we speak is Ibrahim Traoré. The worstest leader on the planet as we speak is Ibrahim Traoré. Hashtag the AES nation. Assimi and Tiani. The three kings, as I call them. The three kings on the face of the planet. Having said that, folks, this is today's presentation. Human Rights Watch, you are a terrorist organization. You are a terrorist group. And by now, you just expose yourself to the African continent and to African worldwide. Peace. See you another weekend.
The white power structure, because that's all we have in America. And the white power structure today is just as much interested